Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Kia, the presenting sponsor of the Kia Wednesday Game of the Week on Sportsnet New York. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. By Hummer, visit Hummer.com to check out the H3 Hummer like nothing else. By IO Digital Cable, the leaders in HD and presenting sponsor of the Mets in high definition. Do you see in HD? By Citi, let's get it done. And by Aflac, ask about it at work. The roof at Miller Park open for the second straight night. Another nice warm day in Milwaukee. Temperature reached the upper 80s, low 80s as we approach game time. Last night, Tom Glavine tried for career win number 300, and the Mets got him a lead. And Glavine left with the lead. Got some good defensive support. But Bill Hall spoiled that in the 8th inning. Mets were able to hang on until the 13th when Jeff Jenkins won it. Mets will try and get even tonight. This year, when you can't be home to watch your Mets on SNY or CW11, check out MLB.tv. Watch every out-of-market Mets game of the season live. Catch those you missed on demand or listen to every radio broadcast. Sign up today. Visit Mets.com, where baseball is always on. Claudio Vargas tries for his 10th win for the Brewers tonight. And here's the Geico Mets lineup that he'll face. Moises Alou, good numbers against Vargas. Marlon Anderson getting the start in center field. His first time as a Met. Only his 6th career start in center field. He started 5 games at that position for the Nationals last year.
Well, Claudio Vargas, the good news for the Mets is in 6 games versus the Mets, he has a 9.13 ERA. The bad news is that he's 6-0 this year at Miller Park, 8-0 since coming over from Arizona, and the Brewers are 15-3 in his 18 starts.
Well, he's picked the right days to pitch. He's also pitched pretty well. Jose Reyes leads off and takes a strike. Reyes 2 for 5 last night. Now has 4 hits in the last 2 games, including 3 doubles. And he lifts one to center field. Bill Hall started back. Now he's over. 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on.
Well, defensively for the Brewers, Rico Brewers defense. One of the changes, Estrada behind the plate. Mets might be able to take advantage of him running. Estrada only thrown out 6 out of 47 would-be base stealers. Graffinino looks like he's got that job for good at second base. Ricky Weeks sent down to AAA yesterday.
And what a come down for Weeks after a big year in his first full season last year. Here's Luis Castillo in his 2nd game as a Met, and he takes a strike. Castillo 1 for 5 last night, had a bunt single and a sacrifice bunt. Also made a couple of nice defensive plays in his first start as a Met. 3-time Gold Glove winner, and he takes outside 1-1.
Second baseman Ricky Weeks sent down to AAA. He was one of those locks, wasn't he, Gary? And the one thing you learn about baseball, there's no such thing as a lock.
Well, he was the number 2 overall pick in the draft, coming off an incredible college career at Southern University, and childhood friend of Prince Fielder. It was a great story. They were rising together as stars, but Prince has risen and Weeks has fallen.
Well, I think Weeks won the Golden Spikes Award a couple of years in a row, didn't he?
Yep.
No, he won at least once, which is for the best college baseball player.
Corners in against Castillo, who's always a threat to bunt, and he slaps one foul, and it's 2-2. Luis Castillo, 31 years old. 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove winner. Not quite the speed he used to have. He used to be a guy who could lead the league in stolen bases, but knee injuries, ankle injuries, back injuries have all robbed him of his speed. He'll still steal the occasional base. He's got 9 this year. And he slaps one foul. And he's never had much pop at the plate, but less so than ever. And as a consequence, they play him very shallow in the outfield.
I didn't get a chance to ask Howard Johnson today, but when a new guy comes over with such an unusual kind of approach at the plate, his body is moving as he's trying to keep the bat in the strike zone and kind of flicking at the ball. I'm sure that's going to be something that Howard's got to work around Castillo's way of hitting than the other way around.
And the fastball on the inside corner, strike 3 calls. So Vargas At 92 miles an hour, gets Castillo looking.
Well, you know what has happened to Vargas is not that he's been a journeyman because he's too young to be a journeyman, but he's been around a few different teams, Florida, Montreal / Washington, Arizona, and now Milwaukee. Is that he's had some success here. So what has happened? He's more aggressive. He's thrown his fastball more. He used to be one of those guys that threw slider after slider after slider.
And he's got a good fastball. So here's David Wright, who hit .333 in the month of July. And he takes a slider for a strike. David, in fact, the last 3 games, 7 hits and 11 at bats. So he's got it cooking and has the batting average back to an even 300. And he lays off that slider, and it's a called strike as he went around. 0-2. Carlos Delgado on deck. Three sliders in a row, and it's 1-2. Well, Claudio Vargas has gotten the best run support of any pitcher in the National League. He's gotten the best bullpen support, if you go by ERA, than any pitcher in the major leagues. The man is living right. Wright lifts one along the right field line. And Corey Hart moving over. And that retires the side. So Vargas gets the Mets out 1-2-3 in the top of the first. Oliver Perez climbs the mound for the Mets in the bottom. Oliver Perez tries for his 10th win of the year against this Ford Brewers starting lineup. Ryan Braun, 11 homers, 25 RBIs, and 38 hits in July. No National League rookie has ever had those numbers in any calendar month ever. Gives you an idea just how good Ryan Braun has been in his first couple of months in the big leagues.
And Oliver Perez in his last start was outstanding for the first 5 innings. Had that throwing error which led to his demise, 5 unearned runs with the loss. Perez trying to rebound here against Corey Hart and the Brewers.
Hart hitting at .279, playing right field. And Perez misses ball 1. For the first 5 innings against the Pirates, Oliver Perez was as dominant as he has been at any time this year. He was throwing all his pitches for strikes. They couldn't touch him. And then all of a sudden it came apart in the 6th, in part because of his throwing error on a bunt.
Which tells me that work is not completely done with Oliver, that even though he can be having a great game, his mind can still wander, you know, and he can't always sustain it for the length of the game. He's shown some brilliance over 7-8 innings. Wasn't able to in his last start. And plus he's given up 13 unearned runs, and that means 2 things. One, that your team has made some errors behind you. In the last game was his error, but it also means another thing, Gary, and that is that when your teammates make some errors behind you, that you're not able to stop the bleeding. And that happened not only in the last game from his error, but remember that earlier in the year, a game in San Francisco, that an error was made. He wasn't able to stop that inning by the Giants.
And it's something we talked about in reference to Mike Pelfrey in his last start, that tendency to allow that inning to tumble down on him as he gets Hart swinging at the breaking ball. So he strikes out the first man to face him tonight. 1 out and nobody on.
Well, just like that Pittsburgh start, outstanding slider as it just completely fools Corey Hart. Defense for the Mets, Lexus Mets defense. Castro again with the start. LaDuca trying to get that hamstring better. Castillo etched in there at second base. He'll be there a lot. Delgado, Reyes, and Wright, and most importantly in the outfield, Manning between Alou and Green is Marlon Anderson. 7th game in center field. His 5th start.
J.J. Hardy takes a strike from Perez. There's Marlon, who started 5 games with the Nationals in center field last year, and that's all of it. All of his center field experience in his big league career. Remember, he came up as a second baseman and only recently started playing the outfield. But it's very interesting that Willie would choose this night of all nights to play Marlon in center field between Alou and Green, to admittedly limited defensive outfielders at this point in their careers, because Oliver Perez is as dominant a fly ball pitcher as there is anywhere. So you're going to get a lot of fly balls if history is any guide. Here you see the fly ball to ground out ratio. So Perez has the second lowest ground ball to fly ball ratio behind Chuck James of the Braves, as J.J. Hardy draws a 1-out walk.
And the reason he has that is that ball, when it comes out of the hand of Perez, he's either going to have them out front with the slider, which they'll pop up, or his fastball is not one that'll dip at all. If anything, it'll kind of rise or stay true, which means it stays on the top half of the bat. That produces pop-ups and fly balls.
Well, here's Ryan Braun, and we mentioned before just how dominant he has been over the last month. The only two rookies who ever had months the likes of which Braun just completed were Luke Easter with the 1950 Cleveland Indians and Rudy York with the 1937 Detroit Tigers. I mean, he's just been off the charts, but he hits the comebacker to Perez. He throws it away and into right center field. Hardy will go to third. Braun will stop at first. And Perez, for his second straight start, hurts himself with a throwing error on what should have been a cinch double play.
Well, this is one of those where he knows who's covering, but what happens, instead of throwing it, it's just total aiming of the ball. That error that happened in the last game may be still in his head, but this is a total aim. See how he kind of just short arms it there instead of letting it go with a little pop on it? When you aim the ball, you never, ever hit your target.
Well, Met pitchers have fielded their positions extremely well this year. None of the other starters in the rotation have had an error. And now Perez has committed his second. They've come in back-to-back starts, and he puts himself in major jeopardy here with Prince Fielder, the league's leading home run hitter, at the plate. Fielder 1 for 4 last night, drove in a run with a ground out. And he hits one in the air to deep center field. Anderson going back, looking up near the wall, and it's out of here. Prince Fielder hits one off the scoreboard in center field. A bomb of a 3-run homer. His 31st of the year. He had gone 18 games without a home run, but he ends it in grand style with a 3-run homer to give the Brewers the early lead.
Well, Perez compounded the error by not getting it out of his head. The result is a grooved one to Fielder, a bomb to center field, and I mean a bomb.
Well, last night he had 2 massive foul balls late in the game. Tonight he hit it dead center. Here's Bill Hall, and he takes outside.
Baseball's a funny game. Instead of being out of the inning without having to face Fielder, he leads off the next inning. You make a throwing error, do not get the double play, cost you 3 runs.
And now he's got to settle back in. And he's missed badly with the first 2 pitches to Bill Hall. Now, the first time Perez faced the Brewers this year, he had a 1-hit shutout going to the 9th inning. And then Bill Hall hit a home run and ended his night. But this game has started far differently. And now he's behind on Hall 3-0. And I am really surprised that Rick Peterson has not been to the mound yet.
Well, Carlos Delgado very intelligently is coming in now, and this is where, you know, as a pitcher, you not only feel like you let yourself down, you let the team down. You had a chance to get your team out of the inning, get back in the dugout. 2 games in a row now, you've made a throwing error that's allowed all these runs, and you know it's got to weigh on you. If you're not a human, if you're a human being, it's got to weigh on you. But as a professional pitcher, you got to get it out of your brain. Go back to business.
And he throws a strike to Hall. Hall, who had 35 home runs last year and then signed a big 4-year contract right before this season. Changed positions, moved to center field. Kevin Mench on deck. And has hit just 9 home runs. Can't catch the fastball, and it's 3-2. Well, they tailgate late here in Milwaukee.
Just to digest.
Enter late, miss a lot. Hey, what happened? Oh, Fielder hit a home run. Oh, shouldn't have had that extra brat. fouled off to the right out of play.
Where'd it go? To right field? No, off the scoreboard. You missed one of the longest home runs in the history of this ballpark. That's all.
Oh, I'll see it on replay later.
Well, that bratwurst was good, though. I'm telling you.
Bernie Brewer's already made his first slide of the night. The Brewers have hit more home runs than any team in the National League. And Hall goes down swinging, so a nice recovery by Perez after Delgado visits the mound. He comes from 3-0 to strike out Hall.
Nice pitch up in the strike zone. We've already seen Hall last night swinging at a pitch out of the strike zone 3-0. That once you get him to 2 strikes, you can usually climb the ladder or throw something out of the strike zone. Very aggressive hitter. Probably why he's having a tough year.
So 2 out and nobody on. Here's Kevin Mensch starting again tonight as the Mets start a left-hander for the 2nd straight day. By the way, if you missed the news earlier, the Mets have announced their starter for tomorrow. Jorge Sosa was originally slated for a tomorrow afternoon start, but Brian Lawrence, the former San Diego Padre, will be called up from Norfolk to start for the Mets tomorrow. And the breaking ball outside. And Willie Randolph had some very interesting comments last night after the game. Without telling anybody, he said basically that Sosa had already been taken out of the rotation and was in the bullpen last night, that it wasn't because he pitched in the bullpen last night that he's not starting tomorrow, that decision had been made beforehand. He just hadn't told us or anybody else, because remember after Sosa's last start Friday night, he was asked repeatedly whether Sosa would make his next start because he had pitched poorly twice in a row, and he said, oh yeah, absolutely. But they changed their mind.
Yeah, well, they had to change of heart, and they can do that with Sosa because of his ability to go back and forth from starting to relieving. Relieved most of the year with the Cardinals last year.
Driven to center field. Anderson going back, and he makes the grab to end the inning. Mensch hit it hard, but Perez, who should have been out of the inning unscathed, with a throwing error that set the stage for Prince Fielder, who just hit a bomb, his 31st of the year, and the Brewers jump out to a 3-0 lead.
Well, at some point, you got to keep the beard out of the hat.
Nah, you got tomorrow's lunch in your beard.
Oh, gee.
Boom, boom, boom. Love Traffic, huh?
Oh, nice.
Great stuff.
Stevie Winwood, right?
Yeah. Carlos Delgado leads off in the 2nd inning. And he takes ball 1 from Claudio Vargas. Well, Oliver Perez, after that difficult 1st inning, getting a little advice from Rick Peterson.
I don't know what to say. I mean, you're out of the inning if you make the simplest of play. That's going to happen, but you know, if you want to win ball games, that you can't allow that to happen. Simple as that. The worst thing that can happen is you make an errant throw, but at least you get the out at second. You don't turn to double play.
Delgado 1 for 5 last night. Finished off a July in which he hit .323, and since coming to the Mets last year, that's the first calendar month in which Delgado has hit over 300. And Vargas walks him on 4 pitches, which is exactly what Ned Yost didn't want to see after being gifted a 3-0 lead, to have his pitcher go out and walk the leadoff batter in the next inning. So the Mets will try and take advantage with Moises Alou. You see his numbers against Vargas, good ones. Alou 2 for 14 since coming off the disabled list. Had the sacrifice fly in the game last night that gave the Mets their 2-1 lead. The last run they scored, which was in the 6th inning. They then went the next 7 innings with plenty of chances and never scored again. And now Lou was in the middle of that in the 10th inning. Remember, Matt Wise came on and threw, what was it, 10 straight balls. Brian Schaus relieved him, threw ball 3 to Alou, got it to 3-1, and then Alou bounced into a double play to short circuit that inning. Vargas finally throws a strike. 1-1. Claudio Vargas, 28 years old, native of the Dominican Republic, first signed with the Marlins, never pitched for them, started his big league career with Montreal, and came over with his catcher Johnny Estrada in a trade from Arizona last winter, which so far is paying handsome dividends for Milwaukee. And the slider misses 2-1. The Diamondbacks got Doug Davis in that trade, and Davis has been a part of their rotation this year, but you'd have to say the Brewers have gotten the best of that deal so far. And Vargas has been something of a good luck charm wherever he's gone. His ERA has never been very low, but he's always been able to win. Hit hard, and a base hit into right field for Alou. Delgado to second, stops there, and the Mets have set the table here in the second.
Well, the thing about Alou that you like, this ball is right on the corner. A pitcher's pitch, but Alou is so strong and covers so much plate that he's able to drive that ball to right field. That's what makes him so dangerous. The Mets, boy, really could have used that one in the 10th inning.
So Marlon Anderson given the start tonight. Lastings Millage given a day off. Nothing wrong with Millage, who made a couple of diving catches in center field last night. So a bit of a curious lineup decision by Willie Randolph tonight, and now he'll hope that it pays off with some offense against the right-hander. Marlon just 4 for 21 since joining the Mets in 9 games. And he takes ball 1 from Vargas.
You know, I guess using Anderson in center field just tells me how much confidence the manager Randolph has in Anderson, and that he'll get the job done. He always describes him, he's just a pure pro, and even not playing a lot in center field, he's got the confidence that he'll get the job done with Perez on the mound.
And he hits one hard up the middle, a base hit. Delgado goes to third, gets waved home. Hall with the throw to the plate, it's cut off. An RBI single for Marlon Anderson. So Marlon justifies his manager's faith in him and drives in the first Met run. It's now 3-1 Milwaukee. 6th RBI of the season for Anderson. So the leadoff walk has come in to score.
You'll see a lot of this from Anderson when he's going right. This is the kind of hitter he is. He hits a lot of balls right straight through the box, up the middle. And Delgado, with that good secondary lead, watches it go through. And with a wave from Alomar, able to come home on that single by Anderson.
So the Mets scratch one right back after the 3-run homer by Fielder. And here's Ramon Castro trying to bounce back after a rough offensive night last night. He went 0 for 5 and never had the ball out of the infield. And he takes the slider off the plate from Vargas, and right now the Mets are just spitting on that slider.
Well, one of the things about Vargas early in the game when he got the first 3 outs is that he went right after the hitters with fastballs. But this is his MO. When he gets in trouble, straight to the slider.
Tying runs aboard with nobody out. And Castro lays off. It's a call strike. 1-1. Now Vargas has never pitched well against the Mets, either as an Expo or as a Diamondback. This is his first start against the Mets as a Brewer. And he's 9-2 this season. 1-1 to Castro. And a breaking ball in for a strike. By the way, Paul Lo Duca continues to try and get himself back into the lineup. Didn't do as much today on the field as he did yesterday, but did some exercises to try and get the pain out of his hamstring. And the hope is that it'll be only another couple of days for Lo Duca. So Castro starting back-to-back games. Fouls it back. Now the Mets are carrying 3 catchers. They've got Mike DeFelice on the roster. They're going to have to make a roster move tomorrow to bring up Brian Lawrence to make tomorrow afternoon's start. Now, if the feeling is Lo Duca's ready to go, then you can just send DeFelice down. If not, then somebody else is going to have to go. Maybe a David Newhand. But that decision won't be made till tomorrow morning. 1-2 the count to Castro. And The breaking ball hit in the air to deep left center field. Back goes Mensch onto the warning track at the wall. It's out of here. Ramon Castro gives the Mets the lead with a 3-run homer. His 8th home run of the year. Castro continues to impress. What an offensive year he's having, and he crushed that one. Didn't know if it had the legs, but it made it a 3-run homer. It gives the Mets a 4-3 lead.
What do you say about Ramon Castro? Catches a hanging slider right up in the strike zone. Hit it probably to one of the deepest parts of the park here at Miller Park, into the bullpen of the Brewers. And Castro has just been a godsend for the Mets for the entire year. Look at that ball up in the strike zone. A lot of times you'll see a hitter come off that and pop it up. He stays right on it and drives it out of the ballpark. As Reggie Jackson said, that pitch was fence high.
2-0 to Sean Green. Sean 1 for 4 last night. Well, Castro now with 8 home runs, 26 RBIs, and only 107 at bats. That is incredible production from your backup catcher. And Green fouls one back, 2-1. So Vargas handed a 3-0 lead, issues a leadoff walk, gives up a couple of singles to Alou and Anderson, and then he was ahead in the count, 1-2, and he gives up the 3-run homer to Castro. And so the Mets on top 4-3, and Perez for the moment can breathe a sigh of relief as Green fouls one straight down, 2-2.
I mean, with the home run by Fielder, you're thinking the same thing for Vargas again, getting plenty of runs. And here at this ballpark, which is where he's undefeated in the last couple of years, it's coming over from Arizona, and all of a sudden Perez on the winning end.
2-2 to Green, up and in, and he stops the swing, 3-2. Well, as a starting pitcher, you've made a couple of big mistakes in the first inning. Throwing error, bad pitch, big home run, long home run. You've been stung, and your team gets you those runs right back the next half inning as Green grounds one to Graffinino, and that's the first out of the inning. That's got to feel like a huge burden off your shoulder.
What happens is you get a push. All of a sudden, that inning is over. It's gone. In your own mind, you got to think to yourself, I'm winning 1-0 now here in the top of the second inning, and that's not going to happen again the rest of the game. That's what you're thinking.
Well, Castro allows Perez to breathe, and he slaps one to third right as Brano was playing in, and that's the second out. So 2 out and nobody on. And here is Jose Reyes, who flied to center to open the game. And Reyes doing something you don't always see these days, lingering a bit to allow Perez to get back to the dugout.
Although after that first inning, I would tell Reyes myself, because if you're not in shape to run down to first base and you're huffing and puffing, then you should be doing a little work in between starts. I'd say, hey, listen, jump on this first fastball. Which, of course, he throws him a changeup. But you want to let your hitter know that you do not have to take a strike. I'm ready to go. I can't wait to get back on that mound, considering what happened in the first inning. Jump on that first pitch if you like it.
And Reyes fouls it off the end of the bat. 1-1. Well, Manny Parra, who was the only Brewers reliever who didn't pitch last night, is up in the bullpen. The Brewers made a couple of player moves after the game yesterday, including one that I didn't think they were allowed to make. The pitcher Scott Linebrink, whom they acquired from San Diego, was home with his wife, who gave birth yesterday, and they put him on the bereavement list. Line to second, caught by Graffinino, side retired. My understanding of the bereavement list was it only was for bereavement, not for the birth of a child, but the Brewers got themselves an allowance. Well, the Mets fight right back with a 4-run inning, capped by Ramon Castro's 3-run homer, 4-3 New York. They honored their past nicely here at Miller Park. There's a statue of the Hall of Famer Robin Yount, part of that great 1982 Milwaukee team that they continue to honor here. That was the only World Series that the Brewers have ever played in, and It's the 25-year anniversary, and they were doing a lot here to celebrate.
That team had a lot of characters to love, you know.
Starting with the manager, Harvey Keene.
Well, he was so popular here. You had Ben Ogilvy. They loved Molitor, of course, and Gantner and Yount, all those young players.
Cecil Cooper, Gorman Thomas. 1-1 to Johnny Estrada.
Pete Vukovich, starting pitcher. Who was the guy? Ladd. What was his first name? Pete Ladd with the size, whatever, feet. They used to call him Bigfoot, right?
Of course, Raleigh Fingers. 1-2 to Estrada. Well, Mike Maddox, the Brewers pitching coach, brother of Greg, trying to provide some consolation to Claudio Vargas after he gave back a 3-0 lead. And now Oliver Perez will try and run with it ahead on Estrada. 1-2, and he gets him with the slider. So that's the third strikeout for Perez. They were talking about the '82 Brewers, and they were a charismatic group. Harvey's wall bangers. Robin Yount, the division clincher, as they beat the Angels for the American League pennant. They're only one, and then played the Cardinals and a young Keith Hernandez in the World Series, only to lose in 7 games as Bruce Sutter nailed it down for the Cards. Tony Graffinino takes a strike.
Keith hit a home run, I think, in that 6th game of that series. They were a great team. I mean, you know, when the Red Sox were out of it, you just loved to watch that team. They had the big mustaches. They looked a little sloppy in that uniform.
Smile hasn't changed.
Boy, is that an evil grin or what?
That's pre-Just for Men days. By the way, did you see Rick Peterson wince at that last pitch as Perez dropped down? Throws the fastball and Graffinino fouls it off.
I think he just gets bored. Occasionally he has to make one of those pitches, get it out of his system, and go back to business.
Doesn't matter how many times Rick tells him, arm slot, arm slot. Every once in a while, that arm slot disappears. Now it's foul.
You know, we had a picture of Mike Maddox talking to Claudio Vargas. I saw Mike before the game, and I said, you know, how you doing? We exchanged pleasantries. And I said, are you still living in Vegas? He said, no, I live here now. I said, why? You moved to Vegas? He goes, teenage daughters. I go, completely understand. Milwaukee's much better than Las Vegas.
As long as you can keep them away from the cheese and sausages. 1-2 to Graffinino.
He goes, what goes on here, I hear. So much better than the other one.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yeah.
And I mean this quite sincerely. As Graffinino fouls it off. How is it that anybody in Milwaukee weighs less than 300 pounds? I mean, the food products they push at you here are unbelievable.
I'll tell you, I went for lunch with my son Jordan, who's here on the trip with me. We went to an Irish pub because he wanted a blackened chicken sandwich or something.
Graffinino takes the breaking ball, and Perez thought he had it, but it just missed.
There you go.
Look at that. You got the choice of the brat, the Polish, the Italian, the hot dog, the cheese fries, the regular fries, the nachos, the fried cheese curds. I'm telling you what, there ain't a diet food in there.
I think I'm going to go easy tonight, Gary. I'm going to go with the fried cheese curds.
And another one that Perez thought he had strike 3 and didn't get. So back to, and he snatched at that ball coming back. He's not a happy camper right now. Brian Gorman, the home plate umpire. Bill Miller at first base. And Graffinino with a long at bat.
I was saying I went to an Irish pub for lunch with my son Jordan, and I looked at the menu. Typical Irish pub, shepherd's pie, bangers and mash, and then also a bratwurst sandwich. Now, why would they have a bratwurst sandwich at an Irish pub? Can't get away from it.
And Graffinino on the 10th pitch of the at bat draws a walk, and Perez takes that return throw with his bare hand. So he's just a little befuddled right now as he issues his second walk. Check out your Jeep around the majors for tonight. Yankees hit 8 home runs, tying their record set in 1939. A.J. Burnett trying to work his way back from injury for the Blue Jays. And Buddy Bell announces he's stepping down at season's end. That's the first I've heard of that, which is interesting because the Royals have been playing so much better. As Vargas up there to bunt, takes ball one.
They played better. They're starting to, they tried to make some trades. Dotel trade, of course, with Atlanta. They got Kyle Davies trying to line up some younger starting pitchers. They got Bannister, of course, from the Mets last year. I think Buddy's just needs a reprieve from the governor. He just needs some time off.
Kind of like Mike Hargrove, who just decided he couldn't give it 100% anymore. Vargas gives himself up and takes a strike, 1-1. Vargas, a notoriously poor hitter, 0.82 lifetime. That's 14 hits and 170 at bats. He does have 3 sacrifices this year. Right comes charging hard, and the bunt goes foul, 1-2.
You know how some pitchers, you look at them, they get in the batter's box and you say, he might have a shot. That's not Vargas. Vargas, when he gets in there, just looks like he'd rather be any place else than facing that pitcher.
Batting here with the tying run at first, Graffinino. And he lays one down, but right back to Perez, who falls and then makes the toss to first. I'll tell you what, it just can't go any worse for Perez in his fielding mode. He's fortunate he didn't release that ball as he was falling down.
And let me tell you, he had another chance for a double play here. Hard bunt. If he gets his throw off the second, they easily have Vargas, who can't run at all, going to first base. But has the presence of mind, once he slips, to hold on to it, put a little air under it, make it easier for Castillo to make the play.
Next start, maybe he should wear his spikes.
I think he has his spikes on. Maybe the next time he throws a second, he'll sit down first before he throws.
Time for a deep breath. He's been unhappy with the umpire's calls. He has to be unhappy with his own defense. Now he's got to face another batter with the tying run at second. Corey Hart struck out his first time up, and the breaking ball swung and missed. Hart, an unlikely looking leadoff hitter at 6'5". Got power, he's got speed. And he takes the fastball in tight, 1-1. Graffinino, the pride of East Islip High School, at second. Cotton candy comes in all colors. And it's not good for you either. Hit hard toward the middle of base hit. Graffinino will score the tying run, and the Brewers get even at 4-4. So Corey Hart comes through, and Perez falling down on that bunt play costs him a run. So 4 Milwaukee runs, all of them pretty much pinned to Perez's lack of fielding prowess.
Well, this fastball is up on the strike zone. Hart does a nice job of getting on top of that. Marlon Anderson, I think rightfully so, is playing a very deep center field. So any base hit that goes to center field, runner on second, he will probably be able to walk home unless he's overly slow.
So we start fresh again. 4-4. J.J. Hardy takes a strike. Hardy walked and scored in the first inning. Remember when the Brewers were at Shea in May? J.J. Hardy was the rookie, well, not the rookie, but the young player that everybody was raving about, all of his newfound power. Well, J.J. Hardy's now gone 104 at bats without a home run, which just goes to show, as always, we try not to jump to snap judgments about players, because the league learns. Punch to shallow right, that'll fall for a hit, and Green falling down lets it go by him. Hard around third, he'll head home with the go-ahead run. 5-4 Milwaukee. And I have no idea what Sean Green was thinking. He never had a chance to catch that ball, and for some reason he belly flopped and let it go by him.
Well, I think you got it right, Gary. At some point he thought he could catch it and tried to go for it, and that got no man's land. No chance of catching that ball. I don't think he slipped. He just got no man's land where he made the wrong decision. Hart running hard on the play. Easily scores with that good speed as it goes to the wall. Good backup from Anderson. But just the wrong decision here on this ball. You want to keep it in front of you. There's 2 outs. Give your pitcher another chance to get an out.
So it scored an RBI double for J.J. Hardy, but boy, misplays are just killing the Mets early in this game. 2 of them by Perez and now 1 by Green. And now here's Ryan Braun, and he takes a breaking ball for a strike. Braun hit the comebacker that Perez threw away for an error in the first inning. It's a grit your teeth kind of a night for both managers early on. It's only the second inning. 5-4 Milwaukee. 1-1 to Braun.
See, Willie's got that sling back on again. He tried a couple of days to have it out, and I'll tell you, you just don't realize the kind of dead ache. You can think about it as a toothache, but in your arm. It just nags at you all day long, and having it in the sling helps just a little bit.
Fouled into the mid of Castro. 1-2. Well, Willie's been in a lot of pain since that shoulder surgery. And the problem with shoulder surgery, unlike say leg surgery, is it's really hard to sleep.
Yeah.
There's just no position that you can get comfortable in.
You end up sleeping in a chair. I know when I had my elbow surgery, I slept in a chair for almost 2 months.
1-2 to Braun, who has just eaten up lefties. And he pulls it foul. You noted the numbers for Braun against lefties early on. I mean, 66 at bats, 10 home runs, and a .500 batting average. It's just off the charts.
He's making a mockery of the game against left-handed pitching. Really is.
And again, you don't know how long it's going to last, although Braun was a very highly touted prospect, and Perez almost throws one to the backstop. I mean, Braun was the number 5 overall pick in the draft 2 years ago out of the University of Miami, but he has just put up ridiculous numbers early in his career.
It's amazing. Some hitters come up from the minor leagues. Ricky Weeks has the same kind of promise, comes up to the big leagues and can't make his mark over an extended period of time. Now, Braun, this is a short run for him, but boy, he seems like the real deal so far.
2-2 to Braun. And the breaking ball in there for a call strike 3, and Braun knew it. So Perez gets the slider over. 4 strikeouts, but he's given up 5 runs in the first 2 innings. We'll talk with Mets bench coach Jerry Manuel when we come back to Milwaukee. An active first 2 innings even after the tailgate. Third inning at Miller Park. A wild first couple of innings. The Brewers with a 5-4 lead. Luis Castillo will lead off against Claudio Vargas. And Castillo takes a strike, and we're very pleased to be joined from the Mets dugout by bench coach Jerry Manuel. And Jerry, last night was one of those games that, as a fan and as a lover of the game, you really look forward to a guy going for a huge milestone. What's it like on the bench in the dugout in a game like that? Is it different from usual?
Oh, no question. No question. Anytime you get an opportunity to be a part of a milestone or history as it is, you feel very different. A guy going for 300, which is rare in itself, and to be a part of it, there was no doubt a different feeling in the clubhouse and during the course of the game.
You know, Jerry, it's always different when you lose one of your coaches, one of the fraternity.
Sure.
As Rick Down was let go, but you know that's the nature of business. It happens. As Castillo grounds out to short. No, he doesn't. He beats it out easily. Another infield hit for Luis Castillo, who can master that. Can he, Jerry?
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. That's a big plus for us. For anytime Jose Reyes ends an inning, we have Louis to lead off an inning, and that's a big plus for us.
I was saying you lost one of your fraternity, Rick Down, and you have Howard Johnson there now, but boy, it's been almost more challenging for your coaching staff this year. Everything seemed to come up roses last year. When you needed a big win or an extra inning win, you seemed to get it. Hasn't always happened this year. Is there a lot more of the coaching to keep the players positive through some of the negative things that have happened?
No question. I mean, you're right. Anytime you lose a member of your fraternity, I mean, you take it personal because you always feel that there was something that you could have did or said that could alleviate that particular situation. But you also have sometimes a difference in philosophy, and sometimes that philosophy doesn't always work out, or sometimes you need to hear something different. And whether that was the case or not, you know, who knows? But it's a tough task for us. I mean, it's going to be very challenging for in these last 50-some ball games to get our team on track, get our team in a rhythm to where we can kind of expect and depend on a certain type of game. And it's unfortunate that we haven't found that yet, but that's a part of the long season.
Jerry, one of your responsibilities is working with outfielders, and you've had such a turnover in your outfield this year, and because of injuries, including losing a great defensive outfielder in Andy Chavez, and so you've had to move guys around into different spots. And tonight you've got Marlon Anderson, who hasn't played a lot of center field out there. What has that challenge been like for you?
Yeah, that's also a great challenge in a sense, because I've always felt that defense is pitching and defense is the heart of the team. And anytime you kind of mess with that part of it, it affects you to some degree. I mean, we've almost come to the part in this game now where people consider defense an intangible, but it's not. It's one of the tangible things that needs to be worked on and perfected every day. And if you can come every day and know that you're going to get good pitching and good defense, you got a chance to win. Now, when you change that, you have to bring in the philosophy and talk to the player about how critical this is for. This is not necessarily an offensive move. This is for us to continue to be consistent playing defensive baseball.
And obviously the move to acquire Luis Castillo has a lot to do with that.
Right.
You can't ignore the defensive part of the game.
Oh, no question. I mean, for me, it's like the heartbeat. If I feel like every day we're going to come and we're going to play good defense, that means that pretty much you're going to have to beat us. And then offensively, we're going to make outs, but if they're productive, then I think we got a good chance to win and a good chance to be a consistent team.
David Wright draws a walk, and the Mets have the first two men on in the third, and that's going to get Ned Yost out of the dugout for the Brewers. Jerry, if you can put your finger on one thing that this team needs to do to be able to hold on to their lead for the last 2 months of the season, what would it be?
Oh man, that's a tremendous question, but I think it includes a lot of things, and I think obviously your pitching gonna have to come every day. You hope that you're gonna get 2 or 3 pitchers that get hot, and I mean hot in the sense that when they go out there, you got a real good chance of winning that particular ball game. I've always thought that the pitching was the most important aspect of the game. I think offense comes and goes. We have good team speed, so we can somehow do some different things offensively to create runs. But if you get 2 or 3 pitchers hot, starting pitchers and maybe some couple guys in the bullpen that solidify that, I think those things are critical going down the stretch.
All right, Jerry. Well, thank you very much for the insight. We appreciate you joining us for a few minutes.
Always, guys. I had a little longer inning this time, too.
Well, you set the table real nicely.
Yeah, okay. All right, guys. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks very much, Jerry Manuel, the Mets bench coach, joining us from the dugout. Meanwhile, the Mets building another threat against Claudio Vargas, and looked like Ned Yost had fire coming out of his ears as he headed out to the mound to talk to Vargas. So the tying and lead runs aboard for Delgado, who walked and scored his first time up, and he waves at the slider, badly fooled, 1-1.
Well, this ball way out of the strike zone, considering it was a 1-0 count there. Delgado must not have seen that out of the hand of Vargas.
And of course, Jerry was talking about pitching, and Pedro Martinez got rained out of his rehab start tonight, but he'll pitch an intra-squad game tomorrow morning down in Port St. Lucie, and at least appears to be on the horizon. And for whatever moves the Mets were not able to make at the trading deadline, that's one very tangible move that they will be able to make at some point within the next month. 1-1 to Delgado, and he gets beaten on the fastball inside 1-2.
It's nice to throw early in the morning, because that's what they do in Port St. Lucie usually in the rehab, is throw early and get the work out of the way. But at some point, those rehab starts, not only important to pitch against other hitters, also important to get your clock, your baseball clock going, where you are sitting all day and waiting till the night to pitch. That is a very important thing, especially for a starting pitcher.
1-2 to Delgado. Just gets a piece of the fastball.
And I think we should clarify, because last night I misspoke, Gary. I said that if Pedro doesn't get his 30 days in by a certain time, he's not going to be on a postseason list. That is not true. It's just that he has 30 days to
30 days from the first rehab start. So because he's not pitching a rehab start tomorrow, the clock will not start on him. The problem is that the clock can run out because the minor league season ends around Labor Day. So you have to kind of be done by then, because there are no games to pitch in necessarily. But any player who's on the active roster or the disabled list as of September 1st is eligible for the postseason. So it's just a matter of, Pedro getting the work in, getting the rehab starts he needs, and it could be less than 30 days before he comes back. But you have as many as 30 days from the day you make your first official minor league rehab start. 2-2 to Delgado with 2 on and nobody out. Mets down by a run in the third. Vargas having his problems, and he comes inside. Did he hit him? I think Delgado thought he might have been nicked, but I guess not. And now they check at third to see if he swung, and the third base umpire, Chad Fairchild, punches him out. No way. He was dropping the bat to get out of the way of the ball. Are you kidding?
That was,
well, Chad Fairchild had trouble calling balls and strikes from behind the plate last night. That's ridiculous.
Well, he called strikes more easily from third base.
You got to show that again.
I mean, that was obvious. He's just getting out of the way of the ball. Yes, did the bat continue in front of the plate? But here you see the ball inside. Let's go with the bat because he thinks it's going to hit him in the wrist. Not any attempt to swing at that ball, just an attempt to get out of the way of that pitch.
That wasn't in his hands. I've never seen that one before. 1 out. Here's Moises Alou. And he pulls one over the back. Great diving stop by Braun. Does he have a play? He does. Unbelievable play by Ryan Braun, who made a couple of them last night. He's made a ton of errors, but he saves at least 1 and maybe 2 runs.
Is this the player they said with 15 errors was having trouble at third base? We have not seen it in the last couple of nights. It's just a fantastic play, not only from Braun to get to the ball, but to get up and make the accurate throw.
Well, he took a double away from Alou. Castillo certainly would have scored. Maybe Wright would have as well. Instead, the Mets have runners at second and third and 2 down, and a chance to bypass a golden opportunity. So it's left to Marlon Anderson, who singled up the middle to drive in the first Met run. What a crazy game this has been already. Mets were down 3-0, led 4-3, now down 5-4. A base hit could give them the lead again. And Anderson fooled on the changeup, 0-1.
Isn't that the way, though, Gary? Got a surprise start in center field by Anderson, and right in the middle of all these RBI situations in his first 2 at bats.
Braun plays in at third, off the line, thinking Anderson might try to bunt. Don't understand that. With second and third and 2 out.
Well, especially with Vargas, who doesn't throw, he throws his slider down and in, but any of his fastballs are usually on the outside part. And if it's that and the way Anderson hits, he shoots a lot of balls that way. You have to give some room and back up a little bit.
You would think. Certainly gives Anderson a good target on that left side. 1-1 to Marlon. And he hits one in the air to right field. That's well hit. Back goes Hart, back near the wall, and it's out of here. Marlon Anderson with a 3-run homer, and the Mets have the lead right back. It's 7-5 New York. Willie Randolph played a hunch, stuck Marlon Anderson in center field, and in his first 2 at-bats, Marlon has driven in 4 runs. And that's going to be all for Claudio Vargas. Marlon Anderson with his first extra base hit of the season. Didn't have one for the Dodgers, and now his first extra base hit as a Met is a 3-run homer. So Claudio Vargas who came into the day 9-2, exits early. This call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. Switch to Verizon Fios TV, internet, phone. It's the most advanced fiber optic network straight to your home. Daily News Live, presented by Citi, comes straight from the heart of New York sports. Join the roundtable for debate and discussion on the show that brings the back pages to life. Daily News Live, presented by Citi, weekdays at 5 with encores at 11 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. only on SNY. Well, Marlon Anderson gets a chance to start in center field, and he knocks Claudio Vargas right out of the game.
Well, one of the pitchers for the Brewers who did not pitch in last night's game, Manny Parra, 24-year-old from Roseville, California. That's outside of Sacramento. He's only appeared in 3 games so far for the Brewers. Got a good fastball and an overhand hook.
Ramon Castro, first man up against him, and he takes a strike. That takes ball 1. Castro hit a 3-run homer in the 2nd inning that gave the Mets a lead, and after that lead disappeared, Anderson hits a 3-run homer here in the 3rd, and it's 7-5 New York. Here's Castro's Coors Light cold blast with 2 aboard in the 2nd. And Parra's fastball in for a strike, 2-1. What kind of game is this going to be? This reminds me of that game in LA where the Mets and Dodgers just kept pummeling each other. Breaking ball in for a strike, 2-2. Manny Parra has had a lot of shoulder problems over the last few years, and he gets Castro swinging to end the inning. But the Mets grab the lead on Marlon Anderson's first home run of the season. A 2-out, 3-run bomb. And it's 7-5 New York. Oh, if I could read your mind. Last night, all he needed was 3. And tonight, first 3 innings, the Mets have put up 7.
It's not always how you pitch, Gary. Sometimes it's what day you pitch.
Well, Claudio Vargas had been picking the right day, but didn't matter how well he pitched, how much run support he got tonight. He couldn't last 3 innings. We'll see if Oliver Perez can do better against Prince Fielder, who hit one off the scoreboard in center field. Now you have to understand the scoreboard is what, about 40 feet off the ground?
Yeah.
The bottom of it?
Easily.
And the center field fence is 400 feet away. And Fielder just crushed this. Bernie slides. Well, now Perez has himself a 7-5 lead. He's ahead 0-2 on Fielder. And somehow that was a ball. Wow. What's the expression? Right down the middle for a ball?
Unbelievable. Might as well just put it on a tee.
Bill Hall on deck, and then Kevin Mensch here in the bottom of the 3rd. And the breaking ball got him. That's 5 strikeouts for Oliver Perez. 1 out in the bottom of the 3rd. So 1 away. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Well, guys, you know, Pedro Martinez is supposed to throw that rehab game tonight because of the rain. He'll throw a simulated game tomorrow. We'll have some details of that tomorrow on the pregame show. But it's interesting. You kind of wonder how that affects some of the minor leaguers who are told, by the way, before the season starts, as much as you want to advance in our system, your #1 goal is to get the big leaguers ready to play. So I talked to Mets minor league catcher Teddy Juba, who's in Port St. Lucie right now. Earlier this year, he caught Mota in a simulated game, and he caught Pedro the other day in a simulated game. I said, what was that like for you? You know, you're a young guy trying to move up in the ranks. You're catching Pedro. He said, well, honestly, it was business as usual. Said his changeup was great. It was eye-opening. That was fun to see. But you just try to keep it on keel that it's business as usual, and your job is to get Pedro ready. I said, so that's it? No excitement? He said, not so much from me, but from my friends. He went to school in Babson, which is certainly not a baseball school right in the Boston area. He said he got about 1 million calls from friends up there all knew that he caught Pedro. A lot of flack there, but it's kind of interesting. Kind of the unsung heroes, guys, in a case like Pedro, getting him ready to get back to the big leagues.
That's wicked cool.
Oh, wicked. Super duper.
Well, you know, Pedro's start or lack of start tonight not only impacts Met minor leaguers, as Bill Hall fouls it off, but think about those poor Brevard County Manatees who were going to get a chance to face Pedro tonight and got rained out of the opportunity.
Waiting for that badge of honor, maybe. I'll never forget 2007. I got a single to right field off Martinez. In the big leagues? No, down in Port St. Lucie.
I was a manatee there. 1-2 to Bill Hall, who struck out his first time up. And it takes away 2-2. Been a roller coaster already for Perez tonight. A throwing error, another fielding misplay, and it cost him 5 runs. And he strikes out Hall for the second time. That's 6 strikeouts for Perez of his first 8 outs.
You very rarely can say this, but you have a pitcher who's given up 5 runs who has great stuff tonight as he blows Hall away. I mean, Bill Hall is as good a fastball hitter as there is in the National League. He just blew it right by him.
So here's Kevin Mensch, who lined out to Marlon Anderson in center field his first time up. And that Marlon Anderson, he's worked out okay tonight.
That was a good choice by Willie.
Everybody was scratching their heads before the game, and I mean everybody, about playing Marlon Anderson in center field with Perez pitching, and well, so far it's been brilliant. RBI single, 3-run homer for Marlon in the first 3 innings. On the ground to the left side, on the backhand, Reyes has a long throw to make on a hop. Can't be scooped by Delgado. And Mensch is safe at first.
Well, nice play by Reyes to get to this ball. The topspin takes him deep into the outfield there. And by the time he makes this throw, you can see Delgado. He didn't know whether to go out and reach out and get on the short hop. He tried to play it back a little bit.
An infielder's got to have the confidence that his first baseman can scoop a ball out of the dirt. And I don't think that Reyes can play with that kind of confidence right now.
Well, you saw his face. He was frustrated that ball wasn't picked.
It goes as a base hit for Mensch. A lot of those balls get charged as errors on the fielder.
Well, that's a base hit there just because the ball took him in the outfield. But that's just, all the way around. It gives confidence to shortstop. I went and made a nice play with a good throw to first to get the guy out. First baseman feels good about himself because he helped his infielder get an out. And the pitcher doesn't have to throw any more pitches. He's back sitting on the bench.
Jerry Manuel, when we had him on last inning, was talking about defense and the fact that it's not an intangible, that it's a tangible that comes to play every day. Estrada fouls it back.
Well, hopefully Jerry's not the professor, because he's going to be giving out some bad grades tonight.
And I don't think, and I don't want to jump on Delgado because Delgado is what he is, but I don't think any franchise has seen a bigger contrast between what an outstanding first baseman and a less than outstanding first baseman can do for a team than the Mets.
Yeah.
And it's not just Keith. I mean, the Mets have had a number of first-class first basemen, maybe not in Keith's class.
But Olerud was great.
Rico Bronya, David Segui, and all those guys in Mets uniforms picking balls at first base. And when you get a guy who's not quite as adept, it affects everybody on that infield. We saw it when Kaz Matsui came to the Mets. The fact that they didn't have a first baseman who could pick a ball cleanly at first base, and it affected his confidence from the first day he played in the big leagues. Rolled over down to third, and Wright will take the play at first to get Estrada and end the inning. An infield hit and one left. The bratwurst with the special red sauce. Them's eats. Yep. As we go to the 4th inning, let's ask you our Aflac trivia question for tonight. The major league record for total bases in a single game. I know this one.
You do?
Sure. John Green takes low ball 1. He's in the ballpark tonight.
Oh, okay.
You know it?
Well, when you first said it, because I wasn't watching the duck, because at some point during the dog days I get a little tired of the duck. But I heard it out, just a little bit faint, so I was thinking total bases for a team.
No.
But an individual player, I do know. I know it's not Euchre.
1 and 2. What was he eating?
I don't know. It looked like
whatever it was. We didn't get any. Was that the cheese curds that you were looking at before?
That's right. Fried cheese curds.
And Green goes down swinging at the curveball. So Manny Perez come out of the bullpen and faced 2 batters and struck them both out. Well, Euchre has been an outstanding radio voice for the Milwaukee Brewers here for many years, and quite aside from his career as a major league player and his career as an actor, he is a superb, straight ahead baseball broadcaster. Oliver Perez up for the 2nd time, takes ball 1.
Well, he's one of the retired numbers here at the stadium, and it's number 50, and it's not for a uniform number 50, but for 50 years in baseball.
One and 1 to Perez, who grounded out his first time up. Well, Manny Perez is pitching in just his 4th major league game here, working out of the bullpen for Milwaukee. But about a month ago, pitching in AAA for Nashville, he threw a perfect game. I don't care what level you do that on. That's pretty impressive.
That's good in Little League, and it was only the 3rd 9-inning perfect game in the 104-year history of the Pacific Coast League. That's very impressive.
He's got good stuff. So he's faced 3 batters. He's struck them all out. Be part of the summer excitement at Shea with Mets season tickets, prorated packages, including postseason ticket purchase options, and continuing full season ticket holders will have priority access at Citi Field. Call 718-507-TIXX or go to Mets.com today. Here's Reyes, who's 0 for 2, and he takes a fastball wide. I mean, this kid's throwing 94 miles an hour. He's got a nice curveball, good changeup. Let's see if he can field his position. A little late. A little long arm action on that one, and Reyes has himself a bunt single. So Perez, after striking out 3 in a row, gives up his first base runner.
I mean, has he been watching This Week in Baseball? I mean, come on, Jose Reyes can fly. You got to get rid of it a little quicker than that.
No crow hops allowed.
Perfect bunt by Reyes.
So Reyes beats that easily. Again, looking at the ball. What is with that?
It's not going to change, Gary. It's here to stay. I don't know why. I don't know when it happened. You've been doing the games for a long time. You got to know the line of demarcation at some point.
Yeah, it's hard to remember. I mean, at one point, guys started diving into first base. It looks like we've finally gotten that out of the game. It took a bunch of guys getting hurt to eradicate that scourge.
Now they're diving into home.
Yeah, which is worse. Castillo takes a strike. Well, Luis Castillo, a guy who's noted for the number of pitches he will take in the number 2 spot to allow a guy to steal, and that's just perfect for Reyes, who stole his 50th base last night. See if we can get a read on this lefty. He had him frozen, and it's 1-1.
Problem is there can't be a lot known about Manny Parra and his move to first base. So Reyes is going to have to learn on the run.
Yeah, I mean, if any scout looked at his game last month for Nashville, he didn't have any base runners. He pitched a perfect game. We couldn't get a read on his move. He pitched from the windup all night. And the off-speed pitch misses. 2-1 to Castillo. Manny Parra working in back of Claudio Vargas, who just didn't have it tonight. 2 2/3, 7 runs, 5 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 2 3-run homers by Castro and Anderson. And that has the Mets in the lead 7-5. Mets were down 3-0 on Fielder's first inning homer. Went up 4-3 on Anderson's 3-run homer. Fell behind 5-4, and then Anderson's 3-run homer made it 7-5. Chopped to short. Hardy in between. Hop can't handle it. Reyes digging for third, and he'll make it easily. Hardy just got caught in between, and the Mets have runners at the corners with 2 down.
Well, that's where speed kills you, because he knew he had to play this in the in-between hop, because he had to get rid of it quickly to second base. And you can see he was trying to get rid of it before he even caught it. And with Castillo and Reyes running, and you'd love to see Reyes hustle to second base. And once he recognizes the ball goes through, turns it on. Just great base running by Reyes.
It'll be an error charge to Hardy, his 10th error of the year, and so the Mets get a chance here to add to their lead. David Wright has flied to right and drawn a walk. 7 hits in his last 12 at bats. And he has been driving in runs by the bunch. First and third and 2 down. And he takes low. David has driven in 15 runs in his last 13 games. Now has 66 for the year to lead the club. Reyes at third, Castillo at first. Castillo does not steal as many bases as he used to. And the curveball in for a strike, 1-1. And Reyes is getting way down the line at third base against Parra with his back to him. He's walking a good 20 feet down the line, and Wright lines one to center right at Bill Hall, and that ends the inning. So fun hit and an error, but the Mets leave 2. Still 7-5 New York.
Well, they got 2 great bunt threats for the Mets in the top of the lineup. Castillo batting second. Watch how his style gets both hands up on the bat. That way he can push it and deaden it as he's in the left-handed hitter's batter's box. And different for Reyes. Reyes keeps that bottom hand on the butt of the bat, points it towards second base, gets that angle, and by pointing that bat at the second baseman, gets the angle to third, and also gets his body propelling towards first, moving towards first.
Tony Graffinino takes a breaking ball for a strike. Graffinino walked and scored in the second inning. Oliver Perez trying to settle in after a difficult first couple of innings. He has struck out 6 over the first 3. He's given up 4 hits and 5 runs, 4 of them earned, but all 5 of them are direct result of his fielding difficulties. Graffinino fouls it away. The pitcher Manny Parra on deck.
A lot of Met fans here, Gary. Is that usually the case, or was it because of Tommy going over his 300th last night?
I would assume it's because of Glavine, because normally you don't get a lot of Met fans in Milwaukee. Graffinino goes down swinging. That's 7 strikeouts now for Perez.
Well, this is one of the few split fingers you'll see as that ball stays on the outside part, diving down and away from Graffinino after he went up and in. Good pitching from Perez.
So 1 out and nobody on. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt.
Guys, in the top half of the inning, we saw Luis Castillo reach on an error, and I wonder if you ever take the time to think, how do new guys on the team get their jersey so quickly? Well, it's one of the many duties of equipment manager Charlie Samuels, and there's a couple of different answers to this. First of all, in Castillo's case, because the Mets were coming here, he quickly had a jersey made in Milwaukee. Each team has a company that they use, but Charlie doesn't like to have all the jerseys made there. He has one company he uses. He goes to Vicky, who works for Majestic in Pennsylvania, and what they do is they make all the jerseys and then FedEx them overnight so they're ready. So kind of the one-night stopgap until Charlie gets the jerseys he really needs. Every man on the 40-man roster, actually, when they leave spring training, Charlie has jerseys made up for them. But I'll give you a good example. This one will go out of play. A good example is Marlon Anderson. When the Mets picked him up, you know, of course, they were in Colorado going to make that. They were right before they're going to Los Angeles. So Charlie, on Road City, had to get a jersey made. He called, of course, Majestic. Those jerseys were going to be there the next day. He got the jersey for Anderson. The end was crooked. Now, I didn't notice it. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but Charlie told me it killed me all night every time we saw him. That's why he goes to his company, Majestic. But it's just kind of interesting. Those things that behind the scenes, you don't see how quickly people have to go to action to turn around a jersey for a game in that night.
There are so many things like that that you never think of. And, you know, in the old days, as Perez picked up his 8th strikeout getting par, in the old days, if a guy joined a team during a road trip, he would get a jersey without a name on it.
Yeah.
They would just carry around an extra jersey. Now the standard has been raised, and nobody goes nameless, even for a night. Corey Hart with 2 out takes a strike.
I remember the days when guys used to take a sneak peek into Charlie's equipment bag and look at who the guys are that were coming up in September.
By the way, I guess Anderson Hernandez did not have the standing to be able to lodge any formal protest that Castillo took his number. So if Hernandez gets called up later in the year, I guess he'll have a different number. 1-2 to Corey Hart.
It's all about time, Gary. Time in the big leagues. Either you got a lot of it or you don't.
1-2 to Hart. And he bounces the slider. 2-2. Well, there have been so many notable examples of players wanting to get their number and being willing to pay for it. Ricky Henderson, when he went to Toronto, paid Turner Ward $25,000 for his number 24. 2-2. Struck him out. Oliver Perez strikes out the side in the 4th inning. That's 9 strikeouts for Perez in the first 4 innings tonight. 7-5 New York. Charlie Sheen and John Cryer joined the CW11 family this fall in the Emmy-nominated hit comedy 2.5 Men. If you think your life is crazy, wait till you see what goes on in this house. 2.5 Men weeknights starting in September on the CW11. You see the standings in the National League East. The Phillies trailed their game in Chicago 4-1 in the 5th, while the Braves are now leading 11-3 over Houston in the 6th, so there could be a new second-place team after tonight. Meanwhile, in the Central, the Brewers continue to hold off the Cubs, but only just barely. The Cubs finishing off a 17-9 month of July. The Mets will be in Chicago this weekend as Carlos Delgado takes a strike, leaning out of the way from Manny Parra.
You know, the Brewers are very similar to the Mets in that they've allowed the Cardinals back in this race. The Mets, of course, with Philadelphia and Braves nipping at their heels. Parra's got some outstanding stuff so far.
You can understand how he could author a perfect game in the minors this year. Delgado has walked and struck out tonight, 0 for 1. 1-2 to Carlos. Moises Alou on deck, and then Marlon Anderson. Mets have gotten all 7 RBIs tonight from Marlon Anderson and Ramon Castro, the 6 and 7 hitters. Fastball stroked to third. Ball comes up on Braun, but he stays with it and throws out Delgado by a stride, 1 away. Let's check in with the studio. A City Baseball Night in New York update, and Matt Yeloff.
All right, Gary Cohen, thank you very much. Things have changed in Chicago. This is Rich Hill helping himself by driving in a run, but now it's a 4-3 Cubs lead in the top of the 5th. See more on Geico Sports Night. Gary.
All right, Ryan Howard doubling in a run in that 5th inning for the Phillies to get them 2 within a run. So it's 4-3 Cubbies. Moises Alou 1 for 2 tonight. Robbed of a hit his last time up, and he hits it to the same guy who robbed him as Braun throws him out, and quickly there are 2 away. So 2 out and nobody on. Well, the Milwaukee Brewers at one point this season had themselves an 8.5 game lead in the National League Central, and really as much as anything because nobody else in the division was playing well, but the Cubs have really turned it on the last couple of months and put the pressure on Milwaukee.
They really have. The Milwaukee Brewers just have played so well at home, but really can't find their rhythm on the road. 37 and 17 at home. They played much better against the Central, which has been down all season long. But I think for the Brewers personally, their season revolves, if they make it to the playoffs, if they're a contending kind of team, around Ben Sheets. He's their ace, and if they have him ready to go every 5th day, then I like their squad. If not, then I think it's going to be a real battle for them to hold off not only the Cubbies but the Cardinals.
Marlon Anderson having a huge night with an RBI single and a 3-run homer. Well, you know, the Cubs can throw ace pitching at you. They can throw Carlos Zambrano, assuming that he stays there the rest of the year, which it looks like he's going to now. Ted Lilly, Jason Marquis, they've also had good years. Rich Hill. And starting pitching just seems to become more important when you get to playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to build a team around 5 dutiful starters that get you through the 6th, maybe into the 7th inning if you're lucky, and then everyone seems to have this real, or tries to have this real strong bullpen. But boy, if you can have 2 or 3 rock steady starters when you go in the playoffs, you really can make a run. And literally that's what happened for the Cardinals last year. Suppan and Weaver became Superman 1 and Superman 2 as they pitched so well. And Suppan, of course, who pitched in last night's ball game, pitched a nice ball game, was outstanding against the Mets.
3-2 to Marlon Anderson, and obviously the Brewers are going to have to hope Suppan steps it up again, because he certainly hasn't pitched like that guy for the last couple of months. The Ned Yost team can hit home runs. 3-2 to Anderson, struck him out, so Marlon retired for the first time tonight, and the legend of Manny Parra continues to grow. That's his 4th strikeout in 2 1/3 innings of relief, keeping his team in the game. It's a beer town. It's a beer ballpark.
Thanks for carrying me on my birthday.
Miller Park in Milwaukee, right next door to where County Stadium used to stand. Well, that's a different look. What do you suppose that is exactly?
I don't know what it is, but he seems to be with that girl next to him. And at what point does she say, you know what, I'm not really going to the game with you, not with that thing on your head. Come on.
I would have thought that would have been before he walked in the gates. Hardy hits one down to right, and David makes the play, 1 away. So 1 out and nobody on. Hey, you know what's interesting? We talked before the game about Oliver Perez and his proclivity for inducing fly balls. He's gotten 1 so far tonight.
Of course.
You just never know how this game's going to work. Here's Ryan Braun, who's reached on an error and struck out tonight, 0 for 2.
You were mentioning last night Braun and Hunter Pierce, right? Hunter Pence. You were talking about there. Nice.
Green in right field, and Braun retired 2 away. Yeah, the 2 best rookies in the National League this year, and they both got those penetrating eyes.
Well, Oliver Perez has had a couple of hiccups, a couple of mistakes, but when he hasn't had to field the ball and just throw from the mound, his stuff has been outstanding. How many times in the course of a year do you give up 5 runs and it's early in the game and he still has great stuff? But that is what he has tonight. All 3 pitches working. Also has a couple strikeouts on his split finger.
Prince Fielder hit a 3-run homer back in the 1st, and he takes a slow curveball for a strike. Fielder struck out his last time up. Perez is fan 9. He's walked 2. This will be his 89th pitch of the night. More than you'd like in the 5th inning, but he is getting his act in gear.
Well, slow curveball for strike 1, hard slider for strike 2. This is where I'd like to see him once in a while use that fastball way high out of the strike zone.
Pauses that lead leg. Boy, Peterson must just be cringing when he sees that.
Well, he reminds me of a pitcher I used to love as a kid, Louis Tiant, who would do a lot of different gyrations and moves before he threw the ball to the plate.
Sometimes I think that Oliver does those things just to drive Peterson crazy.
Well, it's working.
Oliver ahead 1-2 on Fielder, and he does it again with that pause, and it's hit hard foul.
Nothing need be said.
And Castro's saying, you know, you're going to get berated when you go back to the dugout. Could you stop?
Listen, Oliver Perez, from his jumping over the line, he's got a little flair in his game, and it's hard to take it away. Where's the fine line to take it completely away?
Well, the question is where it starts to affect his effectiveness. And he misses with the fastball, and it's 2-2 to Fielder. And what the gyrations have served to do here has caused him to throw more pitches here in the 5th inning, which is not what he needs right now. And now he's 3-2 on Fielder. So now he's about to throw his 95th pitch, and maybe that means he doesn't pitch the 6th inning. Bill Hall waiting on deck. That certainly could use him to go deep into the game, having used most of their bullpen last night. And he walked him. So after getting ahead 0-2, Perez starts fooling around, and he winds up walking Fielder, his 3rd walk of the night. And several jaws are set rather tight in that Mets dugout. So here's Hall, who's been up twice and struck out both times. Tying run at the plate in a 7-5 game. And there you see the pitch count on Perez. 9 strikeouts, 3 walks tonight. And he misses inside to Hall.
Well, this is the reason why they want him to stay in one arm slot and not fool around, because he has the habit his entire career that when he does lose it, he doesn't lose it for a hitter. He'll lose it for 2 or 3 hitters. 6, 7, 8 pitches.
There's a strike.
And you know, that's why they've taken away that flair, that extra kind of fun that he likes to have on the mound, because when he is in the same arm slot over and over again, you don't have those walks where he's 0-2 on a hitter. Fielder had no chance. All he had to do is throw another slider away, ends up throwing extra pitches and walking.
1-1 to Hall. Threw the fastball by him 1-2. Well, I guess the way you can put it is, by losing the flair as you look at that last fastball, he's 4th in the league in ERA.
Yeah.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
He's been a far more successful pitcher toned down. And that doesn't make him boring. It only makes him good. He's ahead 1-2 on Hall. Struck him out. 10 strikeouts for Oliver Perez, the 3rd time he's gotten Bill Hall. So 5 rough innings produced 10 strikeouts for Perez, and a 7-5 lead as we go to the 6th. Time for your Toyota text poll tonight. Do you like the increased role that bullpens play in today's game of baseball? Relevant question. Text your response to 57508 or go to sny.tv and let us know. Ramon Castro has one of the big hits for the Mets tonight, a 3-run homer to left center field, his 8th of the year. That came in the 2nd when the Mets were down 3-1. They then fell behind again. They were down 5-4 when Marlon Anderson hit a 3-run homer in the 3rd. Castro lifts one to right, drifting back is hard. He's got room on the warning track. And that's the first out. So 1 out and nobody on. Well, we've given the Aflac question and the text pulse. You have a lot to think about. So how about we answer the Aflac question? Don't want to leave too much hanging. So the Duck returns. Major League record for total bases in a single game. And you knew it was Shawn Green. 19 total bases. 4 homers, a double, and a single in 0-2, right in the city of Milwaukee, right here.
What do you do afterwards? Where do you go to celebrate that night?
That's a really good question. Hopefully they got on a plane and went to another city.
Yes.
Well, it's a select company of players who've hit 4 homers in a game as Oliver Perez is out on deck. Sean drives one to right center field. That's deep. Back goes Hall looking up, and it's out of here. Into the picnic pavilion in right center field. Green crushed one. Perfect timing on that Aflac trivia answer. Green with his 8th home run of the year. He had gone 114 at bats without a home run, and he makes like it's 2002 as he gives the Mets an 8-5 lead. And he crushed that. Landed right in somebody's soup. Perez taking ball 1.
Well, he knew it. Watch his face. Deepest part of right center. I mean, that is way back there.
And Perez wanted to match him.
Now, I know John Manis hit one, but Ali, suave, bro.
Perez is grounded out and struck out, and he taps the curveball foul. Well, you remember after El Duque stole a couple of bases, Perez tried to do that. That didn't work. After Maine hits the home run, now he wants to hit a home run. But Sean Green, it was a long home run drive for Sean, 114 at bats. But that's over now. Tap toward the middle. Graffinino shuffling over. And throws out Perez, 2 away. So the Mets have hit 3 home runs tonight and lead it 8-5. Another full house here in Milwaukee. They've been drawing very well this year.
Close to 35,000 a game. And boy, I remember when we used to come here with the A's to County Stadium. Whoa. Some small crowds and quiet crowds, but who wouldn't want to come here? It's just a beautiful ballpark, and such a great idea putting this dome on here because you can have some really bad weather early on in the season, and everyone's assured of being able to come to the game here in Milwaukee.
Well, it's also nice that they leave the roof open on warm nights. Remember, we went to Arizona earlier this year and the weather was beautiful. It wasn't too hot, and they closed the roof. Very disappointing. Reyes fouls it off 1-1. Well, the Brewers have been dominant at home, but struggled badly on the road, and that's really been the case the last several seasons for Milwaukee. Ned Yost now in his 5th year as manager. Good changeup, and it's 1-2. And you know, the Brewers have kind of burst upon the scene this year, but you've seen the signs the last few years under Ned Yost of a team learning how to win.
I think they've also done a nice job with Ned and Doug Melvin, the GM, of promoting players when they were ready, whether it was Fielder, whether it's been Braun.
Parra strikes out Reyes. That's 5 strikeouts in relief for Parra, but he also gave up this bomb of a home run to Sean Green, his 8th of the year, and it's 8-5 New York as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Oliver Perez takes the mound for the bottom of the 6th as you look at the Mets' upcoming schedule. Day game tomorrow, day game Friday in Chicago. Then we're back with you on Tuesday night when the Braves come to Shea. Atlanta has made some big moves. They're leading big time against Houston again tonight, 12-3 in the 7th. Mark Teixeira has his first home run as a Brave, and that's going to be a huge series coming up at Shea next Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday afternoon. Kevin Mensch leads off in the home 6th inning and takes ball 1. Don't forget, all Mets home games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IO Digital Cable. And finally, let me add that if you're in the car, please listen to the word pictures put forth by Howie Rose and Tom McCarthy on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. They do a brilliant job.
I was in Boston for 10 days and had to listen to all the games with Tom and Howie, and no TV up there, of course, for SNY.
Nice play on the comebacker by Perez, and he throws out Minch, 1 away.
There they are.
All those wires. You'd think that Chris Majkowski would do a better job hiding the wires. They need a nice banner like
they need a banner, exactly.
Let's go to the studio. Matt Yellow for the Baseball Night in New York update.
All right, no banner, but a highlight. And here he is, Mark Teixeira. First home run as a member of the Braves. The deadline acquisition paying dividends. 14th of the year. First in the NL. 12-3 Atlanta in the 7th, Gary.
Well, let's see. With Teixeira watching last night, they scored 12 runs. With Teixeira playing tonight, they've scored 12 runs. And that Braves lineup now, really from top to bottom, with the year they've gotten out of Willie Harris, who's now the leadoff hitter, with the year they've gotten out of Kelly Johnson, who's now hitting 8th in the order, and everybody in between. That's a fearsome batting order.
And if Andrew Jones ever comes out of his funk that's been plaguing him all season long, it's going to be dangerous.
Well, if nothing else, Andrew needs to put on a salary drive. Remember, he's a free agent at the end of the year. 1-1 to Johnny Estrada, and he hits it on the ground toward the hole. Reyes on the backhand, lots of time with Estrada running, and he throws it perfectly to Delgado for the second out. So Reyes knew that he couldn't bounce this one. Well, all three teams in contention in the National League East made deals at the deadline. The Mets, of course, got Luis Castillo. The Braves did the most, picking up not just Teixeira, but Octavio Dotel and Ron Mahey for their bullpen. And they also got Royce Ring, not listed there. So they got a couple of lefties in addition to the bigger moves. And the Phillies did less. They replaced Chase Utley with Taniguchi after Utley got hurt. And they picked up a back of the rotation guy in Kyle Loesch. And whether that makes a difference, I don't know.
Well, I think they're starting to get some people back. They got Brett Myers back, and that's a big plus for the Phillies.
But now they've lost Ryan Madsen, and Shane Victorino's hurt, and Michael Bourne is hurt. So they've had some injury difficulties lately. Perez with 10 strikeouts tonight, trying to dispose of the Brewers in the bottom of the 6th. 1-1 to Graffinino, and the breaking ball fouled off.
10 strikeouts and 5 ground ball outs.
And 2 fly ball outs. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Kevin Burkhardt with you from Miller Park in Milwaukee. Mets trying to get even in their series with the Brewers and leading 8-5 as the Brewers bound in the bottom of the 6th. Graffinino fouls it off. Tony Graffinino, who grew up just a few doors down from Boomer Esiason.
Oh. Now where's the Islip? South Shore?
East Islip, yeah. Graffinino signed with the Braves right out of high school. And Norman Esiason looks like he's going to become a big morning man.
Well, I was offered a full scholarship to the University of Maryland to go down there and play a little quarterback. And thank God I turned it down, because it was the same year that they offered a full boat to Norman Esiason.
Line and a low bridge. And Perez got the head out of the way, and Graffinino's got a base hit. 5th hit of the game off Perez, and the first since the 3rd inning.
Just a breaking ball from Perez and right through the box. Graffinino now trenched as the everyday second baseman with Weeks going down, and Graffinino just one of those pros you love.
Well, fortunately that ball didn't hit his left hand as he threw it up there. It would look like self-defense. That's the last thing you need. So Manny Parra, with the Brewers down by 3 runs, being left into bat here. And this, I think, is a testament to how shorthanded the bullpen is for the Brewers. And there's a little buzz in the crowd here. I don't think the fans really understand why Ned Yost has to leave him in.
And you always have to remember that before the game, the relievers go out and throw in the outfield. And a lot of times guys will say, hey, Skip, I need a day. And that's something you don't hear about. We don't hear about it. The crowd doesn't hear about it.
Well, the Brewers used 8 pitchers last night, including the guy, as you look at the sausages ready for their race, including the guy who was supposed to start tonight, Dave Bush. Remember, Claudio Vargas was moved up a day to what would have been his regular day to pitch tonight. But, you know, we didn't talk about that with Vargas earlier. He came into last night thinking he was going to pitch tomorrow. And all of a sudden, after the game last night, he finds out he's pitching tonight. And that's got to have an impact on a guy, right?
The more of a pro you are, the less of an impact it'll have. And what I mean by that is that you cannot use that as an excuse.
Parra down swinging, 11 strikeouts for Perez.
Game by game, things change. You always have to be ready.
So Oliver Perez looks like he's done for the night. 115 pitches and an 8-5 lead.
On your marks, set, go! And they're off. It was a slow start. They were waiting for the call. Number 2, Polish on the outside. Number 5, Chorizo on the inside. They passed the Mets dugout. They're all in it yet. Now they're in the home stretch. Here they come. with the big sombrero. Can he hang on to the finish line? Looks like he will. Clements Chorizo.
The rookie Sausage wins the sausage race tonight. Luis Castillo leads off in the 7th inning. Well, last night we had the unique pleasure with the long game of seeing 2 sausage races in one night in Milwaukee. They do it after the 6th inning every night, so they did it after the 12th inning as well.
Well, I had the chorizo over the hot dog and bratwurst in the trifecta box, but I came up a little short.
Castillo batting right-handed, and he pulls one down to third, and Ryan Braun, who's had another busy night, throws out Castillo, 1 away. Well, it's one of the great traditions here in Milwaukee. It used to be back at County Stadium probably more than 10 years ago that they would only have the sausage races on Sunday, and the other days of the week they'd have an electronic sausage race on the message board. But the fans liked it so much that they incorporated it as an everyday event, and this year they added the chorizo for the first time as the 5th racing sausage, which was, you know, a real break with tradition. 1-0 to right. It was 0 for 2.
I still laugh to this day when, I don't know which one of you talked Chris Cotter into getting in that race last year, but that was hilarious.
He was what, the Polish, right?
Yes.
1-1 to right. Well, rumor is that Kevin Burkhardt tried to get to run in the race this year, but that interest is so high that he couldn't break into the field.
Wow.
It's kind of like in the Kentucky Derby where you have to have enough wins under your belt to qualify. Maybe next year. 3-1 to right. Or even better, if the Mets play the Brewers in the postseason, could you imagine Kevin getting involved in a postseason sausage race?
That is something to aspire to right there.
Right, fouls it off the mask of Estrada and back. Let that catch the home plate umpire. But you know how in horse racing they have the also eligibles?
Yes.
Apparently Kevin is on the also eligible list for tomorrow's sausage race. So if one of the sausages has to scratch, he could be in the field. Three-two to right. Breaking ball on the inside corner. Strike 3 call. I'll tell you what, Manny Parra is very impressive. That's 6 strikeouts in relief for Parra.
What they say about this breaking ball, it's a late biter, and what that means is that it looks like a fastball, so it gets really close to David Wright and then takes that right turn, and you can see that totally fools David Wright, and that's going to happen against a pitcher that you don't have a lot of history against. Well, no history against, but not a lot of literature against as far as scouting reports.
Here's Delgado with 2 out. He takes a curveball that looked like it crossed up Estrada.
Well, it's so nasty the Estrada can't even catch it. That's how good that curveball is.
Well, Parra's worked 4 innings in relief. He's given up 2 hits, a bunt single, and Sean Green's home run. And he has struck out 6. And now he's ahead on Delgado, 0-2. Struck him out. Manny Parra with his 7th strikeout in 4 1/3 innings of relief. It's like Mo Drabowski in the '66 series. Guillermo Mota set to pitch in the bottom of the 7th. Mets with a 3-run lead. Guillermo Mota looking to bounce back from last night's disappointment. Takes over the pitching in the bottom of the 7th. Kevin Burkhardt standing by with tonight's starting pitcher.
Oliver, you know, the rough start with the error in the beginning. Did that kind of get you off track a little bit? Did that bother you a little bit in the beginning?
I think in that situation, I just trying to get out the inning as quick as I can. Instead of Phil give me a home run, and I just trying to think that like this is going to start the game, and just make the outs and get out the inning.
I don't know if there's a lot of pitchers that throw games when they let up 5 runs but have great stuff, but it looked like you had great stuff tonight. Did you feel that way?
In the first 2 innings, I don't want to find my my arm, like where it was touching I had to be, and after that I started finding it, and I was starting feeling more better.
Is that impress you? Because there's been times this year where seemingly one bad thing happens and all of a sudden it snowballs, like against the Pirates. This time you had a bad start but recovered and did great after that.
Yeah, just the errors. I don't try to make it. I just have to, like, maybe I had to work on that, and just this doesn't pass. And the more important I keep my team in the game, and that's the more important.
When you were facing fielder there, you had that extended leg kick when you kind of held your leg in the air for a while. Did you? And I saw you laughing there. It must drive you know that must drive Rick Peterson crazy, right?
Yeah, just trying to just change a little bit because he was fouling a lot of balls, and I was trying to change a little bit.
Real quick, what can you say about your catcher, Ramon Castro? Every game he's in there, he seems to do something big at the plate.
Yeah, we're just trying to be consistent, trying to who's hitting and who's net, so to trying to like make good pitches to like they don't score runs.
Was it inspiring yesterday watching Glavine go out and do what he did and come so close to history?
That was a really a tight game, and someone is supposed to win, but they won. But I know he's going to win, and we just had to score runs, and he just had to pitch.
Oliver, good luck the rest of the way tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Guys, back up to you.
All right, thanks very much, Kevin. As David Wright throws out Corey Hart as Delgado makes the tag for the first down in the bottom of the 7th. The SNY sights and sounds of the game are presented by Hummer like nothing else. David's made a lot of those throws this year. Better to that side than to the other side, I guess.
Well, you have a chance on that side, but after a while, I think he's going to find an arm slot. We talk about Oliver Perez's arm slot. Almost every single third baseman that you've seen over their career, the great ones like Robinson, Craig Nettles for the Yankees, what happens after a while, they take the arm out of it. They get that little arm slot, which is kind of sidearm, and they throw it over. As you see Guillermo Mota's numbers last night, of course, with that tying run, giving up the double to Hall, but first 2 outs here in the 7th inning.
Handles the comebacker from Hardy like the shortstop he once was, and there are 2 away.
He takes a lot of ground balls in the infield during batting practice with Guillermo Mota, and that can help.
So Ryan Braun comes up with 2 out and the bases empty. Well, Oliver Perez had one strange night. 6 innings, 5 hits, 5 runs, 4 earned, 3 walks, and a season high 11 strikeouts, his second double-digit strikeout performance this year. And a chance for his 10th win of the season. Braun is 0 for 3, all of that against the lefty. Came in hitting .500 against left-handers with 10 homers and 66 at bats, but not tonight, not against Oliver Perez. Here's a strike, 0-2. Oliver's ERA will go up to an even 3. Started at 2.84 tonight, 4th in the National League. 1-2 to Braun.
Braun's only 23 years old, not going to be 24 till November. I was talking to him at the cage today. Not that big of a guy. He's going to get a lot stronger as his career goes on.
A lot of young talent on this Milwaukee team as Braun breaks his bat. And the barrel sailed back toward Mota as the ball went foul.
Well, good fastball from Mota in on Brian Braun. Beats him inside.
What's that like when a barrel of a bat comes back at you on the mound?
I used to get angry, to tell you the truth. Now, they break bats a lot more now because of the type of handles. They used to real thin handles, but I used to get angry when that bat used to come back. Not Roger Clemens angry, but used to get angry that the bat was coming back at you. See Mota ready to get out of the way.
You know, I've always paid attention to that over the last 7 years. Every pitcher I've ever seen pick up a broken bat, every single one of them has handed it to the bat boy.
Almost every single one.
Well, over the last 7 years.
Yes,
because you never noticed before. So nobody else thinks it's the ball.
I never touched that bat when it was broken. I just left it there. Let the bat boy come and get it. I didn't want to touch the bat of the guy that I'm trying to get out.
Oh, I thought maybe it was because you were afraid of splinters.
No, it's like you get it. I don't want to get it.
2-2 to Braun. 8-5 New York, bottom of the 7th. And Mota got him with the changeup. So a nice bounce back inning for Guillermo Mota as he sets down the Brewers 1-2-3. On to the 8th at Shea, the triumphant chorizo. Mets leading 8-5.
I'm Brian Custer. Coming up on Geico Sports Night, the Michael Strahan saga continues to be a hot topic. You'll hear from the Giants president, John Mara. See more on Geico Sports Night.
Manny Parra has done a magnificent job for the Brewers in long relief. Over 4 1/3 innings, and he's still out there as he throws one to the backstop as Alou leads off. And was he hit by that pitch? I think Alou thought he was. Or did it just dislodge his shin guard? And now Willie Randolph's coming out, and apparently he was hit by the pitch. Well, where was the indecision? And now Ned Yost is going to come out and ask what happened. That was bizarre. Did Brian Gorman change his call, or did somebody give him some help?
I didn't see any of the umpires change his call, but looks like it might go off his shin guard here. See the front kind of changed direction. It looked like the ball changed direction.
But why the delay then? That was very strange. Seen a couple of strange ones tonight. The Delgado strikeout. Marlon Anderson, who already has an RBI single and a 3-run homer, up there trying to bunt now. Remember that when Delgado lost the bat and was called for a swinging third strike?
He dropped the bat to avoid the ball. And Chad Fairchild, the third base umpire, ruled that he went around without the bat.
Is it a full moon tonight?
It might be.
It was almost last night. Anderson pops up the curveball. Fielder over near the stands and has just enough room to make the play. So 1 out and 1 on. Be part of the pennant race excitement when the Mets return home Tuesday, August 7th for 3 games against their NL East rivals, the Braves, followed by a weekend series with the Marlins. Get to Mets.com now for your print-at-home tickets. There's Ramon Castro, who hit a 3-run homer back in the 2nd inning, his 8th of the year. 1 for 3 on the night. And Ramon takes a fastball for a strike. The Mets have hit 3 home runs tonight by the 6, 7, and 8 hitters. Anderson, Castro, and Green. That breaking ball up, and Castro missed it 0-2.
Well, listen, Parra's looked unbelievable. Little hanging curveball here, but you're always on audition when you're pitching in the major leagues. But the text votes are in. Manny Parra's going to probably be in the rotation the next week or 2.
He looks terrific. By the way, there's no action in the Mets bullpen, which makes you believe that Willie's going to try and get a 2nd inning out of Guillermo Mota.
Well, that's what he always wanted out of Mota, wasn't it? The ability to stretch him out if he had to, come in and get a strikeout. That hasn't worked as well so far this season.
Bounced into Estrada, and great base running by Alou, who took off as soon as that ball hit the ground. So the wild pitch moves Alou to 2nd.
Well, these are all the little things that you missed, didn't you, when Alou was out, is that he doesn't run like he used to, but he is a good base runner, reader of the balls, went in the dirt. We saw him steal a base in last night's game.
I mean, that ball never got far from Estrada, but Alou broke so quickly, Estrada had no chance. 2-2 to Castro, and the curveball swung and missed. He got it. 8 strikeouts in relief for Manny Parra in 5 innings of work.
Just a good curveball, almost very similar to the one that Oliver Perez throws.
Let's check out your Toyota scoreboard. The Nationals win. That's the first major league win for Long Beach native John Lannon. The Pirates blow out Braden Looper and the Cardinals. Miguel Cabrera has homered, and the Marlins 4-3 lead over the Rockies. That's now a final. They win 4-3. Braves up 12-3 as that game goes to the ninth in Atlanta. Second straight night the Braves have put up a 12 spot as Mark Teixeira has his first Atlanta home run. The Phillies and Cubs 4-4 in the seventh after the Phillies trailed 4-1. Micah Owings trying to duplicate what Brandon Webb did last night against the Padres, who are in a little bit of disarray right now. 0-2 to Sean Green. Trevor Hoffman made the comment after the Padres made several deadline deals that it was going to create chaos in the Padres clubhouse. They didn't pick up any frontline players. They just got a little bench help. 1-2 to Green.
Chaos is a little strong. I mean, that's part of being a professional, isn't it? That clubhouse is going to change it all the time. It's the veterans of the team are the ones that are supposed to make that easier. So par with 8 Ks. I think 44 outs have been recorded by both teams today. 22 by strikeout.
Perez at 11 Ks. 1-2 to Green. Curveball hit in the air to shallow center. Hardy going out and calling. Hall calls him off, and the inning over. So the Mets get a leadoff base runner, but Hara magnificent in relief. Mota will try and do the same. Well, Oliver Perez got off to a rough start tonight. He made a throwing error and Prince Fielder made him pay, but Ramon Castro redeemed him, got the Mets a lead. Marlon Anderson hit a 3-run homer of his own, and then Perez kicked it into gear. 11 strikeouts in just 6 innings. And the Mets have themselves an 8-5 lead as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Get ready for your chance to hit the lanes with David Wright. It's the SNY and Locker Room Memorabilia Bowling with David Wright Sweepstakes. Enter to win today at SNY.TV. Prince Fielder takes a strike. Fielder 1 for 2 and a walk tonight, including that 3-run homer back in the first inning, his 31st of the year to lead the National League. Fielder had gone 67 at bats without a home run. By the way, has Vladimir Guerrero hit one since he won the home run derby? Is he still waiting?
I think he's still waiting. That whole Angel team has gone through major droughts this season.
And yet they've got a 4-game lead. Great pitching from John Lackey last night to beat Seattle, their closest pursuer. Bill Hall on deck. Happy to see Perez out of the game after striking out 3 times in a row. And then Kevin Minch here in the bottom of the 8th. 1-2 to Fielder. Just missed the outside corner with the fastball. 2-2. Struck him out. Came back with the changeup to strike out Fielder. Second strikeout for Guillermo Mota. He's faced 4 and retired 4.
Well, a lot different stuff here tonight from Mota. That changeup, the bottom dropping out of it. But throwing enough fastballs early to Fielder to get him off that good changeup.
So 1 out and nobody on, and here's Bill Hall. Hall 1 for 7 in this series, and he takes the fastball wide. Tomorrow afternoon, Brian Lawrence will make his Mets debut. Lawrence spent 5 years with the San Diego Padres, won 15 games one year in 2004. Struggled in his last year in San Diego in 05, 7-15, and then had major shoulder surgery a year ago February, labrum and rotator cuff surgery, and he hasn't pitched in the big league since. Lawrence, who's been pitching very well down in New Orleans, will make the start for the Mets tomorrow.
I know that I've talked to some guys in AAA, and they say that he is pitching fantastic. He's doing what he did when he won those 15 games. He was always known as a guy that came right after you, did not throw a lot of pitches, kind of a sinker slider kind of pitcher. And you know, I remember my first start for the Mets. I was luckily in the big leagues in a Met uniform for 4 or 5 days, so I was able to get accustomed to the clubhouse and whatever player would talk to me. In those days, the veterans didn't spend a lot of time conversing with rookies. But nerves is upon nerves for that first start. Lawrence, of course, will be different because he has all that big league time.
31-year-old veteran. Hall hits one deep to center, but Marlon Anderson has plenty of room. And that's the second out. So 5 up and 5 retired for Mota. 2 out and nobody on. Let's give you the results of our SNY Toyota text poll. Do you like the increased role that bullpens play in today's game of baseball? I can predict this answer. Exactly. I mean, you know, everybody loved the old days where pitchers were expected to pitch 9 innings. It seemed more, I don't know, manly to go deep into games, but it's just not the way the game's played anymore. There's Kevin Mensch, who takes ball 1.
I'll never forget, that text poll answer because Tommy Glavine had a chance to go out for the 9th inning at Shea, 1 start this year. And the standing ovation and the eruption from the crowd and the cheering was so unbelievable that people just wanted him so bad to get 27 outs. It wasn't to be that night, but people just love to see someone start something and finish it, and it's not going to be that much of that anymore.
Mensch is 1 for 3, an infield single back in the 3rd, and Mota misses 2-1. The Philadelphia-Chicago game has gone to the bottom of the 7th. Phils and Cubs still tied 4-4. Phillies 3 games back of the Mets starting play tonight. And Mensch fouls it away, 2-2.
When we talk about I cannot come out there and say that I belong to that manly day of days when you used to complete 20 or 25 starts, because I never did. Mine was more in the pitching of 230, 240, 250 innings a year. And that's, I think, what fans miss, that the ability to get deep into a game, to relieve the bullpen of the of the chance that they have to get 8, 9 outs every single night, it seems, right now.
And there are exceptions, but for the most part, the expectation, as you look at how complete games have dropped over the decades, the expectation is that pitchers are going to throw 100 pitches.
Yeah.
And when they've thrown 100 pitches, anything more than that is a bonus. Tonight, Perez threw 115 in 6 innings, and that's it. 3-2 to Mensch. I mean, we were looking at the game by game of Tom Glavine's 299 wins last night and looking at early in his career, 138, 129, 135. And you're just not going to do that with a young pitcher anymore.
And on a game like tonight, Oliver Perez starting, in the time that I pitched, if the game had gone 13 innings the night before and I had the stuff that Perez had tonight, it would be a 140 pitch effort. You would stay out there as long as you were getting people out, just to try to save a man after man in the bullpen. That was your job. That's how it went. Well, Manny Parra has done his job, I'll tell you that.
He has been a revelation tonight, certainly for us and for the Brewers as well. Mensch fouls another one off. I mean, Parra, who pitched a perfect game a month ago, a 9-inning perfect game in AAA, wasn't perfect tonight, but 5 1/3, 1 run, 2 hits, 8 strikeouts in relief. That just doesn't happen anymore. Shades of Dickie Gonzalez. 3-2 to Mensch. Popped it up. Castillo retreating. Green calling him off. And Green's got it to end the inning. So Mota pitches 2 perfect innings in relief behind Oliver Perez. 8-5 Mets as we go to the 9th.
I'm Brian Custer. Coming up on Geico Sports Tonight, rain keeps Pedro from making a rehab start in Florida. You'll hear from Mets GM Omar Minaya. See more on Geico Sports Tonight.
The most outrageous family on television is coming to the CW11 this fall. Get ready for Family Guy, the hilarious hit that keeps critics raving and viewers coming back for more. Family Guy weeknights this September on the CW11. Damian Easley up to pinch hit for Guillermo Mota, who bounced back quite nicely tonight with 2 perfect innings of relief. As we start the 9th inning, and Manny Perez still out there chucking for the Brewers in long relief. As Billy Wagner gets set for what could become a save opportunity if the Mets don't score here in the top of the 9th. And Easley bounces one toward the hole, base hit. So Easley, who last night struck out in both of his plate appearances, has himself a leadoff single as a pinch hitter here in the 9th. Just the 3rd hit off Parra in relief.
That's one of those where he gets a topspin on it, and this second bounce just eludes Ryan Braun. Easy with a base hit.
So Jose Reyes, who's 1 for 4 tonight, a bunt single in the 4th inning. By the way, the Yankees won their game tonight, beat the White Sox 8-1. They hit 5 more home runs. That's 13 in the last 2 games.
How many did A-Rod get?
None. Reyes deadens the bunt, no play for Estrada, and everybody's safe. Now Estrada's only chance was to catch that ball in the air. Once he didn't, play over, and Reyes has his 2nd bunt hit of the night.
Well, this is like a Tiger Woods chip with a little backspin on it. Not the best bunt by Reyes, but not hard enough to get to the pitcher. So by the time it hits the dirt, it spins and comes back to Estrada, fooling him, and ends up being another bunt base hit for Jose Reyes.
Now let me ask you a question. If you're Estrada on that play and you know that it's Reyes running, do you have to dive for that ball?
Well, yeah.
Because once you play it on a hop, there's no chance of throwing him out.
Or you have to go and proceed and maybe make the play at second base with Easley, because you might have a better shot with him.
So the Mets have 2 aboard. Let's see if Castillo's asked to sacrifice. He's 1 for 4 tonight, and he is up there to bunt, and he takes ball 1. Anyway, A-Rod went 0 for 4 tonight. He's now 0 for his last 21. You think he's thinking about 500 just a tad?
Listen, I spent some time around Gary Carter trying to get to his 300th. It was a nightmare.
Well, that took him 3 months.
Oh,
I don't think it's going to take A-Rod 3 months.
No.
1988, finally hit it at Wrigley Field.
That's right. That's right. Wrigley Field.
Which is where the Mets are headed next on Friday. They run into Carlos Zambrano, by the way, on Friday afternoon, who will be going for his 15th win. One and 1 to Castillo. And the curveball slapped toward the middle. Diving stop by Graffinino. Glove flip, and they turn 2. Outstanding play by Tony Graffinino. And they double up Castillo, 2 down.
Well, usually it's Castillo who's turning this magic. This time the magic against him as Graffinino makes a fine play in the in-between hop, tosses it with his glove, and Hardy with the strong throw to first to get the speedy Castillo. Manny Parra, yeah.
The amazing thing is that Graffinino was in the right spot to make that play because they were looking for the bunt. So he should have been further over toward first base. There's David Wright, who takes the curveball low.
Whenever you have a bunt play like that, you usually have the first baseman charging. You got to have the second baseman making his way towards second base, and he did not do it. Towards first base. Sorry, check that.
2-0 to Wright. David is 0 for 3 and a walk tonight. So easily at third with 2 down. And Parra staying with the breaking ball, falls behind 3-0.
Well, you see, Graffinino should be moving toward. He is moving towards first on the bunt.
Well, that was the Reyes bunt.
On the Reyes bunt, you can see him going over, but did not do that in Castillo.
Yeah, I'd love to see where Graffinino was positioned with Castillo up there. And ball 4 to Wright, so Parra didn't want to challenge Wright in that spot, and issues his first walk in 6 innings of relief.
Well, Graffinino is a heady player. You see him here halfway, just leaning towards first, and see he's edging towards first, but once Castillo showed that he was going to swing away, he held his position, quick move towards the middle, and just an outstanding play by Graffinino. Has always been a very heady player.
Very nicely done. by Boomer's former neighbor. Here's Delgado, who's 0 for 3 and a walk, and he takes in the dirt. Good stop by Estrada, 1-0. Don't forget Nissan Postgame Live coming up right after our game with Matt Yaloff and Lee Mazzilli. Then the Mets have a day game tomorrow at 2 o'clock start Eastern Time. Brian Lawrence against Chris Capuano, as in whatever happened to Chris Capuano. Start of the year 5-0. He's now 0-7 over his last 10-12 starts.
He looked like a guy who was going to build on his year from last year. He was outstanding.
Line to right field. Moving back is Hart to make the play. Delgado hit it hard. Hart able to grab it. So the save opportunity intact for Billy Wagner. 8-5 as Wagner takes over in the bottom of the ninth.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sterling Mats and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mats.
In 2007, Hyundai, the Mets, and SNY are teaming up to strike out cancer. For every K the Mets pitching staff registers, Hyundai, the Mets, and SNY will make a donation to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. If you'd like to help, please go to www.hopeandheroes.org. Billy Wagner comes on to bid for his 25th save of the year.
And what a season Billy's having. Hasn't allowed a run in the last 17 innings. That's dating back to June 15th, a month and a half ago.
He's had a few days off since pitching Saturday in the day game against Washington and earning his 24th save. Johnny Estrada leads off. However, Billy was up and down a few times last night, which is going to happen in an extra inning game on the road. Every time you think you might get a lead, you got to get your closer up. He wasn't up quite as much last night as he was in that 17-inning game in Houston when he said that he pitched his first career complete game in the bullpen.
Much to their credit, though, the Mets do chart all those pitches. Guy Conti, anytime their relievers get up, even if they don't get in the game.
Estrada takes a strike, 2-1. Estrada 0 for 3 tonight. Oliver Perez went the first 6. The first 2 were troubled. After that, he settled in, wound up striking out 11. He's in line for his 10th win. Foul back 2-2, and then Guillermo Mota turned in 2 perfect innings. 2 more strikeouts. The Met pitchers have struck out 13 tonight. Mets had 15 strikeouts in a game against Florida back in April. Phillies and Cubs are in the 8th, tied 4-4. The Braves have won their game. So the Braves will stay 3.5 back if the Mets win. And if the Phillies lose, the Braves will move into second place. Back-to-back 12-run games for the even more fortified Atlanta offense. And of course, the Braves are coming to Shea next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Estrada, the former Atlanta Brave, lines one into right field for a base hit. So the Brewers have the leadoff man on in the bottom of the ninth. Coming up on Geico Sports Night after Nissan Postgame Live, we'll go in the Mets clubhouse for a reaction. More home runs in the Bronx tonight. And the Giants saga continues. All on Geico Sports Night after Nissan Postgame Live. Joe Dillon has come out on deck to pinch hit for the pitcher Parra. Tony Graffinino, the batter, 1 for 2 and a walk tonight. And Wagner missing with the fastball, 1-0. Graffinino made that outstanding double play to keep the Brewers within contact in this game in the top of the inning. Mets hoping to return the favor. 1-1 to Tony. Ricky Weeks sent to the minor leagues. Graffinino getting the bulk of the playing time now at second base. Joe Dillon, who's on deck, journeyman minor leaguer who played briefly with Florida a couple of years ago. He might get some time there as well. He had been really hitting well in the minors. One and one to Graffinino. And Graffinino fouls it away. 1-2.
It's very interesting. Over the course of the year, we've seen Billy really mix up his fastball with the slider. So far, though, against the Brewers here in the ninth, mostly fastballs from Wagner.
Feeling strong, you would think, after a few days off. In there for a call, strike 3. Got Graffinino looking at the fastball, and that's the first out in the bottom of the ninth. 14 strikeouts for Met pitching tonight.
You know, Ned Yost, manager, thinks that pitch is down. It really isn't down. It's just it was so lively in the action on that fastball that Castro had a hard time catching it properly. That ball's right down the middle. But watch Castro's glove. It goes straight down because he's not able to handle the liveliness of the action on that fastball.
This is interesting as Dillon comes up. Rick Peterson goes to the mound, and I guess this is just a scouting report on Dillon. And Wagner can't have seen much of, if at all. As we mentioned, Dillon played a little bit with the Marlins. That was in 2005. He had just 36 big league at bats, and that's the sum total of his major league career. Dillon played last year in Japan for the Yomiuri Giants.
Some nice numbers, though, in AAA this year. 20 home runs, 73 RBIs.
31-year-old journeyman. Dillon standing in. And a slider in for a strike. I guess the scouting report was good fastball hitter.
Yeah. First pitch, fastball hitter.
Delgado plays behind Estrada at first, and another slider. That one misses. 1-1. Corey Hart has got some power on deck, so the Brewers trying to get him to the plate as the tying run in an 8-5 game. Fastball. 1-2. Well, he was waiting for it.
Well, he can wait for it all he wants, but you're not going to see this kind of action at 93 miles an hour from Wagner. How many guys down? The guys that are down there that throw that hard, they make it up here very quickly.
Now Billy ahead 1-2. Line into right field, falling in for a base hit. And the Brewers will get the tying run to the plate here in the bottom of the ninth. So Joe Dillon, just up from the minor leagues, his first at bat, behind in the count. Got a fastball he could hit.
Well, nice hitting by Dillon. Wagner wanted that ball down on the outside corner instead it was up out over the plate. Interesting they chose that fastball away after throwing him 2 sliders to start the at bat.
So now the Brewers, who've hit more home runs than any team in the National League, get the tying run to the plate in the 9th inning. Corey Hart has 16 home runs this year. He's never faced Billy Wagner. Hart is 1 for 4 tonight, singled home a run in the second. Strike 1. Good slider by Wagner to start him off. So this crowd, the largest they've ever had here at Miller Park tonight, 42,058, getting energized in the 9th inning. Estrada at second, Dillon at first. Slider in at the feet of Dillon, 1-1. Shallow center. Anderson, who was playing very deep, settles in under it. And there are 2 out. So Wagner gets hard to fly out. And now the Brewers are down to their final out with J.J. Hardy coming to the plate. Now remember earlier tonight, Shawn Green snapped a home run drought of 114 at-bats. J.J. Hardy has gone 107 at-bats without a home run. He's got 18 this year. Two on, 2 out, last of the ninth. And Hardy takes the slider, ball 1. And the Brewers not only hit home runs, they don't give up many. And they have the best differential in the major leagues between home runs hit and allowed, but not tonight. They've hit 1. The Mets have hit 3. Slider, call strike, 1-1. 3-run homers by Castro and Anderson, a solo shot for Shawn Green. Estrada at second, Dillon at first, 2 down. Pulled over the bag, foul. Just foul. J.J. Hardy that close to a double.
Well, right closer to that line than he usually would be, but this ball was scalded. And you see Chad Fairchild right on it, third base umpire, making the correct call as Hardy hooks this ball, starts fair, ends up outside the line.
So now the Brewers are down to their final strike. One and 2 to J.J. Hardy. Just inside, 2-2. Ryan Braun hoping for a turn on deck. 2 out, 2 on, 2-2 to Hardy. Inside again, and it's 3-2. Now the runners will be in motion, but that's not of import to Wagner. The only man he cares about is at the plate. Mets 8, Brewers 5, last of the ninth.
Well, 2 fastballs in by Wagner the last 2 pitches. To go to that slider down and in.
Down, off to the right. And they'll do it again. Hard-working inning for Billy Wagner. He's thrown 23 pitches. He needs to throw at least 1 more. Two to Hardy. Popped up, shallow right, tough play. Delgado going back, foul ground, makes the catch, and the ball game is over. Carlos Delgado with a nice over-the-shoulder catch of the foul pop-up by Hardy, and Wagner saves it for Oliver Perez. And the Mets, who played long ball tonight with Castro, Anderson, and Green, hang on for an 8-5 win.
Well, Delgado playing deep at first base, able to get a good jump on this ball, and just makes a fine running catch down that right field line to get the Mets the victory.
Well, it wasn't easy for Billy Wagner tonight with 3 days off, but he notches his 25th save in 26 chances. Oliver Perez picks up his 10th win, and the Mets get even in the series with the Brewers, with the day game coming up tomorrow. There's your Audi game summary. 3-run homers by Ramon Castro and Marlon Anderson. The big keys tonight. Shawn Green breaks a long home run drought, and the Mets overcome Prince Fielder's first inning 3-run homer and a couple of early deficits to win tonight.
Yeah, and a nice job by Oliver Perez, who gave up the 5 runs but struck out 11. kept his wits about him to get the win. And Marlon Anderson, with a spot start in center field, ends up with a 3-run home run and 4 RBIs in the games for the Mets.
Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Kia, the presenting sponsor of the Kia Wednesday Game of the Week on SNY. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. By Nissan and the next generation Nissan Altima. By Hyundai, make a really smart move. Drive a Hyundai with America's best warranty. And by Corona, kick back and relax with an ice cold Corona. Relax responsibly. And by IO Digital Cable, the leader in HD. Do you see in HD? Well, the Mets win tonight 8-5. A wild early part of this game, and Oliver Perez wound up striking out 11 over 6 innings to pick up his 10th win of the year. And Billy Wagner knocks the save after 2 perfect innings from Guillermo Mota. Rubber game of the series tomorrow. Brian Lawrence makes his Mets debut on the mound against lefty Chris Capuano. Coming up next, it's Nissan Postgame Live with Matt Yaloff and Lee Mazzilli. Met fans in attendance tonight watched a bomb of a home run early by Prince Fielder put the Mets in a hole, but Oliver Perez was able to settle in. Got some offensive help from Ramon Castro and Marlon Anderson. And he had himself a big night with 11 strikeouts. Sean Green added a home run to boot. And the Mets win it 8-5. Now for Ron Darling and Kevin Burkhardt, I'm Gary Cohen saying so long from Milwaukee.
The bottom of the Mets order gets it done. Game 2 in Milwaukee. Castro, Marlon Anderson, Sean Green, all of them go deep. In fact, all 3 of them combined to drive in every Mets run. 8 in all. The Mets take down the Brewers. Oliver Perez notches the win. A strange game indeed for Oliver Perez. The offense helped him out big time. Take a look at the last 2 nights. Tonight and last night. You go deep into the night, Lee Mazzilli, looking for a run. You can't get one. Today you get 8. And check out the left on base. 5 against 12 runners in scoring position. 300 tonight. They'll take it, right? Not too shabby. All right, so this is Nissan Postgame Live. We're inside the SNY studios in Midtown Manhattan. Maz and Matt and Ron Darling coming up in just a second. Ramon Castro. How many times can you even talk? You just keep going round and it's the same thing. What kind of luxury for a manager, for a pitcher, for an entire organization to have a guy who is technically your second catcher who hits like this?
Technically a second catcher. On most clubs, he's being number 1 catcher. I mean, you look for catches, Matt, you'll be looking all through baseball trying to find a good backup catcher. They just are not to be found. It's so hard to find a good backup catcher that can hit the ball out of the ballpark like he can and call a good game. He's got 100-something, maybe 105 at-bats. He's got, what, 7, 8 home runs? 8 home runs. He's done a great job for them. I mean, he is so valuable because, you know what, LaDuca, obviously, great catcher for the Mets, done a great job. But when you sit LaDuca down and you got Castro, that's his name, Castro. You don't lose anything. No. It's almost like you expect him to hit a home run. So he's just done a great job. Yeah, and it's a win-win. It's a win-win because when you sit LaDuca, you're also resting your number 1 guy as you head down the stretch, and you're not losing. Exactly. So everything kind of just rolls together. It's really a nice little combination. Ron Darling is standing by at Miller Park. Hello, Ronnie.
How you doing, Matty? How you doing, Maz? Good.
Hi, Ronnie.
I won't speak for Maz, but I'm fine, thanks. Hey, Oliver Perez did not look early on, Ron, like he was going to give them the innings they needed. After last night's game, they desperately needed him to get at least 6, and that's what he did. How did he do it?
Well, how he almost didn't do it is with his fielding plays. I think that's he had great stuff all night long. It's just that he was going to undermine himself by giving them extra outs. And when you give them extra outs, you have people on base against guys like Prince Fielder who can hit it over the moon. You're going to have those little hiccups, and he did. And, you know, he was just fortunate that it was not 5-0 kind of game, that the Mets came back and scored a lot of runs, and all of that is a distant memory, all those plays in the field. So he's going to have to, in between starts, maybe work on a couple of those crow hop throws to second base, different things like that, because you know, in the National League, you can't get away with just throwing strikes and being a pitcher. You got to be able to field your position. You got to be able to hit a little bit, get a bunt down, and you know, he's done all those things very well this year, just not the last 2 starts.
Yeah, right now, looking at him tonight, I mean, he got in trouble the first inning, like you said, threw the bunt away. But it looked like he refocused. I think his last outing, he got a little frustrated against Pittsburgh. And I think as a pitcher, and you know this as well as anyone, whatever you give up, you can't get back. And I think what you have to do is refocus, start right there. You gave up the 3-run home run to Fielder. After that, lights out.
Well, you got to have the memory that lets it go. I mean, there's nothing you can do anyways about it. So one of the things I always hated about starting pitchers, when I would watch a guy out there give up 4 or 5 runs in the first 2 innings and he would give up, and I know you, Maz, feel the same way. You got to fight hard. You never know what's going to happen. You keep your team in the game. Even if you're not going to get the win, if you don't give them any more, your team can kind of creep back into the game. Well, the Mets exploded back into the game, which is different. But, you know, those are the kind of things as a starting pitcher. You know, when things are going great, you're going to get the win. When you got good stuff, you're going to get the win. It's those days when things don't go so right that you see what kind of heart a pitcher has. And I think Perez, ever since coming over to the Mets, has shown that he has a big heart.
Right, Ronnie, we talked about Castro, we talked about Perez. Let's keep it up the middle here. Marlon Anderson in center field. I found a little curious earlier when we read the lineup. Is the thinking here that we don't know, or really Randolph doesn't know, how long Beltran may be out, and he needs as many options as possible because he really doesn't know what the future is going to be there?
Well, I don't know whether it was whether he decided to sit Millage for a night also. Who knows about that? But I do know that he knows Marlon Anderson very well. Remember 2 seasons ago, he gave him an outstanding season off the bench and spot starting. Knows that he's a pro's pro and has confidence in him that he's going to get the job done. I'm sure he didn't know he's going to hit a 3-run home run and drive in 4.
Right.
But, you know, that's a good thing. And I think a lot of times it works both ways. When a manager shows a lot of confidence in you and says, hey, you're my person for center field tonight, even though we have a pitcher gives up a lot of fly balls, well, it's reciprocated because the player says, hey, I'm going to really do it for the manager. He's sticking out his neck for me, putting me out there. I want to show him that I'm going to get some big knocks, and he did.
And what does it mean to a pitcher or to an entire club when the bottom of your order clicks, Anderson being in that bottom? What does that mean to a team?
Well, 6, 7, and 8, you get those 3 home runs from those hitters. I mean, that is just gravy. Usually you're going to get it from the top of the lineup with Reyes down to Delgado. But when you get production at the bottom of your lineup, that's when you put 6, 7, 8 runs a game on the board. That's how it happens. It's not going to always happen with the right 3-run bomb or a Delgado home run. You've got to get a production up and down the lineup. And when the Mets start getting that, to tell you the truth, that is when they'll have a chance to make a run. Go 15-5, 17-7. You know, make one of those runs where they'll try to distance themselves from Philadelphia and Atlanta.
All right, Ron Darling at Miller Park. Thanks, Ronnie.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Ron Darling getting things done there with Gary Cohen and Kevin Burkhardt during the game. Kevin Burkhardt, during the game, tracked down Oliver Perez after his night was over. Here's a listen to the interview that took place in the Mets locker room.
Oliver, you know, the rough start with the error in the beginning, did that kind of get you off track a little bit? Did that bother you a little bit in the beginning?
I think in that situation, I just trying to get out the inning as quick as I can. Instead of Phil give me a home run, and I just trying to think that like this is going to start the game, and just make the outs and get out the inning.
I don't know if there's a lot of pitchers that throw games when they let up 5 runs but have great stuff, but it looked like you had great stuff tonight. Did you feel that way?
In the first 2 innings, I don't want to find my arm, like where it was touching I had to be, and after that I started finding it, and I was starting to feel more better.
Is that impress you? Because you know there's been times this year where seemingly one bad thing happens and all of a sudden it snowballs, like against the Pirates. This time you had a bad start but recovered and did great after that.
Yeah, just the errors. I don't try to make it. I just have to, like, maybe I had to work on that, and you know, just that's in passing. The more important I keep my team in the game, and that's the more important.
When you were facing Fielder there, you had that extended leg kick when you kind of held your leg in the air for a while. Did you? And I saw you laughing there. It must drive you know that must drive Rick Peterson crazy, right?
Yeah, you know, just trying to just change a little bit because you know he was fouling a lot of balls, and I was trying to change a little bit.
Real quick, what can you say about your catcher, Ramon Castro? Every game he's in there, he seems to do something big at the plate.
Yeah, you know, we just trying to be consistent, trying to who's hitting and who's net, so to trying to like make good pitches to like they don't score runs.
Was it inspiring yesterday watching Glavine go out and do what he did and come so close to history?
You know, that was a really a tight game, and you know someone is supposed to win, but they won. But you know, I know he's going to win, and we just had to score runs, and he just had to pitch.
A tale of two games here for Oliver Perez. Last 4 innings versus the first 2 innings tonight. I mean, I don't know if that makes any sense, but the bottom line here is that later in the game, he pitched a heck of a lot better than the beginning of the game, and he had enough offense, and that's the key.
And that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Better later.
Yeah, he did. Well, it's certainly what you want. You want to be better later than better earlier. All right, turning point tonight. What was it, Lee Mazzilli?
For me, it's Marlon Anderson, a 3-run home run. They were down a run. Here he comes back. He hits a 3-run home run in the 3rd inning, and it just kind of jump-started the Mets right there. So for me, it was Marlon Anderson's 3-run home run in the 3rd inning.
Yeah, and that was his first home run as a member of the Mets in 2007. He hadn't really hit since that Dodgers series when he joined the club, and he went cold for a little bit there tonight, back in action in Milwaukee, and had the hot bat starting in center field. It'll be interesting to see what Willie
plays tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nissan Postgame Live will continue after a break, and when we do, a preview of Geico Sports Night is on the way. Plus, you'll hear from Sean Green, Lee Mazzilli, Matt Yaloff, Midtown Manhattan, Nissan Postgame Live on SNY.
Nissan Postgame Live is presented in high definition by IO Digital Cable, the leader in HD. Do you see an HD?
Highlights from tonight's Mets win in Milwaukee are on the way, but first, it's Steve Obermeyer with a preview of what is coming up on Geico Sports Night. Hello, Steve. How you doing?
Matt, we're just going to try to do our best to try to pick up where you guys leave off. Always plenty to do. We'll have complete coverage as well from the Bronx coming your way. Another night, the Yankees offense shining at the stadium. Question is, was A-Rod involved in another home run derby between the Yanks and the White Sox? Highlights of that coming up a little bit later on. Plus, Michael Strahan still a no-show at Giants camp today. John Mara chimed in on this saga. You're going to hear from the Giants president and COO a little bit later on. Of course, we're going to be keeping a close eye on Mr. Bonds. He's looking for number 755, that and a lot more when Brian Custer joins me for Geico Sports Night. Now back to Matt, Maz, and Nissan Postgame Live. Guys?
All right, thanks a lot, Steve Obermeyer. We now get to the Kia Wednesday Game of the Week highlights. Oliver Perez on the mound for the Mets, trying to rebound from a subpar outing against Pittsburgh. And early on, this one did not look good. J.J. Hardy with 1 out in the first, walks. Ryan Braun back to Perez, and yikes, man. Are you kidding me? Goes for at least 1 and doesn't get it. So runners are on 2nd and 3rd. Naz, what the heck?
Yeah, you know what, Matty? He didn't get set in what he wanted to do. He wanted to get 2 before he can get 1. He really got to get 1 out, and then we'll worry about the 2nd out later.
Yeah, and if that looks familiar, it should, because this was his last start against Pittsburgh. He threw that away, and then the wheels completely came off. But this time, a little bit different. Well, not all that different, because Prince Fielder, just enjoy this. Try to see where this hits. I think it hits in Oshkosh. I'm not really sure. It's just silly. Prince Fielder with a gargantuan 3-run home run puts the Brewers up. Claudio Vargas had some trouble of his own in the 2nd inning after Delgado walked. Moises Alou singles to right field. So the Mets are in business, and Marlon Anderson steps in. Marlon Anderson back through the box. Carlos Delgado is in, and the Mets are on the board. Ramon Castro follows Anderson, and Ramon Castro gets big. His 8th home run of the year, just over 100 at bats. Ramon Castro getting it done each and every time. It's now a 4-3 Mets lead.
Well, that's just a hanging slider right there, and a 1-2 count. You know he wasn't trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark, just make good contact, and just did another great job again.
Yeah, he did. And Oliver Perez here slips as he fields this comebacker, but he does manage to get the out. But there's a runner in scoring position, and Corey Hart cashes in. The single drives in Tony Graffinino. We're all tied up at 4, so Perez gets the lead and gives it right back. J.J. Hardy follows. Sean Green, what was the plan there?
It was a flop, I think. I think Sean got caught right in the middle, and just what he wanted to do was just knock it down. And unfortunately, the ball went right to the wall.
Yeah, backed up by Marlon Anderson. Top of the 3rd, the Brewers up. Carlos Delgado gets hit, but wait, he gets rid of the bat as he gets hit, and They call it a strike.
I don't think Carlos was a happy camper right there. And you know what? I got to go along with Carlos right there. I think he was just trying to drop the bat and get out of the way and wanted to get the called strike 3 out there.
All right, so that's kind of strange. Don't read lips, please. If the kids are up, please don't read lips. 1 out for Moises Alou. The sharp Ryan Braun with a ground ball to third. Ryan Braun, just a phenomenal play. This ball's behind him, Maz.
Yeah, look like, this kid's going to be a good player. He's got 18 home runs for the Brewers right now, and they got a good young hitting club.
Talk about hitting. Talk about Marlon Anderson. A 3-run home run. Castillo and Wright score ahead of Anderson. 2 for 2 with 4 RBIs, and they're only in the 3rd inning. The Mets are up by 2. Claudio Vargas is done. Then there's Oliver Perez. Strange game. Remember we talked about how he would settle in? We talked about that with Ron Darling, and boy, oh boy, did he settle in. 11 strikeouts in this game after the rough beginning. Sean Green atones. I guess is it comeuppance? Is that the word I'm looking for?
You got it.
Comeuppance. Thank you. I appreciate that. A solo home run. The Mets are up by 3. Into the 9th inning now. With a couple of guys on and a chance to build on this lead, Luis Castillo, he's done this to a lot of guys. So don't feel bad for Luis Castillo. Tony Graffinino, the Long Islander, starting that double play. So now it's the bottom of the 9th. Billy Wagner. We haven't seen many of these innings from Wagner where he gets into a jam and has to work his way out of it. This year, it's been a whole different story, but with 2 on, Corey Hart, this is a huge out, to dead center, that's 2 outs. But the Brewers still have the tying run at the plate. And here's J.J. Hardy stepping in, last chance for Milwaukee, and Hardy with a foul ball down the first base line. Go get it, Carlos Delgado, and he's got it. The Mets take it 8-5. Billy Wagner with the save in this game, and not an easy one, but it counts. Talked about Castro, Anderson, huge nights for those guys. Sean Green as well with a home run. First, he's hitting over 100 at-bats, and after the game, he spoke with our Kevin Burkhardt.
Sean, this has been 2 pretty good games. I mean, it's almost like playoff-type atmosphere, these 2 games. Does it feel like it's been a little bit amped up, these 2?
Yeah, definitely, especially last night with Glavine starting. But, after losing in 13, 14 innings, whatever it was, to come back and have them jump ahead with 3 runs with the big blast by Prince, to come back and get some runs with our big home runs by Marlon and Castro led the way.
Baseball's a funny game, isn't it? Last night, you're just looking for that extra 1 run. You couldn't get it. And here, you need a bunch of runs, and you get them. I guess it's just the way the game works sometimes.
It is, yeah. It's, it's crazy sometimes. And, it'd been nice to score 8 runs for Tommy last night. But, you got to tip your hat to the opposing pitchers. They did their job. And last night, both sides did a great job pitching. And tonight, the offenses were obviously what the key was to the game.
Were you impressed with Perez in the sense that there's been some starts this year where it seems like when he runs into trouble, it snowballs? And last start against Pittsburgh, a good example. Here, trouble early, but he got better and better every inning.
He did. He did a tremendous job to have that rough first inning and, have that double play ball that got away and then Prince come up with a big home run. It's easy to, kind of drop your head and give up. But he battled and had a bunch of strikeouts, struck out 10 or 11 guys and was throwing 95 miles an hour late in the game.
You unloaded some frustration. You went a while with that over 100 at-bats without a home run. That was an absolute rocket. What did you get from Parra?
Yeah, I was ahead 2-0, so I was pretty much swinging anything he threw at that point. So he threw right down the middle, and it felt good to connect.
What was he doing, Sean? I mean, he did a great job. He came in, and that was the only thing you got against him, and he was very effective. Was there something specific that you saw from him that he was doing well?
Yeah, he's got great stuff. I think he's their top prospect, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the rotation the remainder of the season. He's got great fastball, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and a good curveball.
Congrats on the win. Thanks for the time, Sean.
Thank you.
All right, so the Mets at least will have a 3-game lead at the end of the night as they win. The Phillies are tied with the Cubs right now in the top of the 9th, and the Braves are winners tonight, beating up on Houston. In that game, Mark Teixeira makes his Braves debut and goes deep. So the Mets will at least have themselves a 3-game lead over the Phillies at the end of the night. Or maybe the Braves. They may flip-flop. That's really what I'm trying to say. The save of the game is brought to you by the Roosevelt Savings Bank, a member of the NYCB family of banks. Billy Wagner comes in and has to get himself out of a jam he created. But nevertheless, Billy Wagner with his 25th save of the season, just one of 3 Mets pitchers this evening. We talked about Perez. There's Wagner. And let's not forget about Mota.
Mota did a great job.
Bounce back.
Bounce back. And I think that was good that Willie got him right back in the game after last night. You got to get back his confidence, and that's what he did. And he pitched great for 2 innings.
All right, so we take a break on Nissan Postgame Live. Willie Randolph, you talked about him. You'll hear from him. When we come back, he speaks to the press in Milwaukee. You're watching Nissan Postgame Live on SNY.
Hits one in the air to right field. That's well hit. Back goes hard, back near the wall, and it's out of here! Marlon Anderson with a 3-run homer, and the Mets have the lead right back. It's 7-5 New York.
And that was Lee Mazzilli's turning point of the game. Marlon Anderson getting big there, 4 RBIs. Ramon Castro with 3, Sean Green with 1. 6, 7, and 8 in the order do the major damage, the heavy lifting for the Mets. This evening, they all support the pitcher, Oliver Perez. Of course, he was the first topic of conversation with Willie Randolph following the win.
Well, we were impressed with Perez in the sense that he really seemed to get better as the game went on. And at other times, he's had trouble when running into trouble and then kind of snowballing. And today, it seemed like he got better.
Yeah, anytime he stays focused and just execute his pitches, he's going to be fine. I mean, you know, he almost threw it away a little bit with some of the plays defensively. You got to turn in a double play in that situation, dug himself a little bit of a hole. But, you know, when he stays focused and goes after hitters, I think he had 11 Ks tonight, was tremendous, obviously. And, you know, he settled in and he seemed to get a little stronger at the end of the game. But in 6 innings, his pitch count was up a little high, so they didn't want to stretch him out too much.
So I remember the pregame you were asked about playing Marlon Anderson. That's why you played him in center tonight, right? So he could have the homer and drive in 4.
Yeah, well, you know, I got a good feel for my players, very honestly, and you know, Marlon was ready to play tonight. He's always ready. All my guys are. You know, every day we talk and communicate with each other, and just had a feeling. You know, that's all. And Marlon came through as usual. So you know, big game for him. Big home run by Castro again, coming through in the clutch for us. So you know, nice win for us to. Looking forward to the, you know, getting the rubber game tomorrow.
It's not easy to survive a shot like Fielder's in the first. He got pretty quick one like that.
Yeah, well, how about the shot he hit foul last night? I was more impressed with that actually, but yeah, he's some kind of talent. I remember watching that kid sit on in the stool in Yankee Stadium, waiting on his dad, taking BP. I threw BB to him back in the day, as a matter of fact. So it's amazing to watch him grow the way he has and come into one of the best young hitters in the game, power hitters in the game. So yeah, he's impressive, man. But you know, we were able to keep him pretty much in check after that.
Did he hit it that far against you?
Well, he hit some balls up in the upper deck, Yankee Stadium. He did, you know. He was, even back at 16, 17 years old, he was impressive.
Were you impressed to see Mota come back tonight the way he did after last night?
Yeah, well, you know, I expect him to. You know, again, the guy, you know, once in a while you make a bad pitch and, you know, you got to get back on that horse and get out there again. So I wanted to go back to him. He threw the ball great tonight. Outside of the one pitch last night, he threw the ball well. So, you know, Mota's throwing the ball well. You know, guys give up a hit here and there. Everybody wants to throw him in the pile and everything in the heat. But he's got good stuff. It's good stuff as anybody in our bullpen. I believe that. He believes that. Just a matter of executing pitches. So he did a great job for us tonight. And, you know, I'm going to go to him again.
How long do you ride with the game you got from Anderson tonight? Do you ride the high hand or do you go back to Yelich tomorrow? What do you?
I go to how I feel when I get up in the morning. Go how I feel.
All right, there's Willie Randolph speaking to the press in Milwaukee. Meanwhile, in Florida, today was the day Pedro was going to make his first rehab start, Pedro Martinez, but the weather got in the way, so that's pushed back until tomorrow in an intra-squad game. GM Omar Minaya spoke with Chris Cotter in Port St. Lucie earlier this afternoon.
Well, you first look at the amount of pitches that he throws. Is he able to to increase the total number of pitches? His last, size session, if you want to say, with live batters, it was close to about 65 pitches. He's going to be a little different going with, in a game situation. But that's the first thing. You want to be able to see arm speed. You want to be able to see extension of the arm. You want to be able to see him throw all his pitches. Mm-hmm. All those areas he's pretty much has done. He's been throwing the curveball. He's been throwing the changeup in all those areas. Of course, you want to be able to see him bounce back, and that's what we'll see here in the next couple of outings. When after he throws a game, is he going to be able to recuperate and the time that's needed to be a part of a major league rotation, whether it's to be able to take the ball every 4 or 5 days. Those things are going to be good. So far, when he's thrown, he's recuperated very well, and we hope he continues to do so.
All right, so Chris Cotter remains in Florida because Pedro throws tomorrow morning in an inter-squad game. You will see a full report of Pedro's day on our pregame show at 1:30 p.m. That's leading up to the Mets and Brewers in the final game, today game of this 3-game set. All right, Maz and I take a break, and when we come back, we wrap up this show. We get you off to Geico Sports Night. They will have continuing coverage of the Mets. We're back right after this. Nissan play of the game, defense rules. Just ask Ryan Braun. Just a phenomenal play at third base. Take another look from this angle. The ball's behind him. Snags it on a hop and throws out Moises Alou. The Mets win the game, however, 8-5. They get the last laugh. The last game of this series takes place tomorrow afternoon. You'll see it here on SNY. Then it's a short little trek down to Chicago from Milwaukee. They take on the Cubs for 3. The Mets have a major say, at least next few days, in the NL Central. Probables for tomorrow. Brian Lawrence makes his Mets debut. They're giving him the call at AAA with two AAA teams, combined. 8 and 4, 4.83 in 98 innings. Brian Lawrence, of course, you remember him from the San Diego Padres days, so look for him tomorrow afternoon with the Mets. Tomorrow on the pregame show, 1:30 p.m., full coverage of Pedro's first rehab start. Rained out today. He'll pitch tomorrow morning. Chris Cotter has a full report on that. We'll bring that to you on North Fork Bank pregame at 1:30 p.m. Geico Sports Night comes up next here. You're going to hear from Marlon Anderson. You'll hear from Ramon Castro. Thanks for watching this show. I'm Matt Yalla.
I'm Lee Mazzilli. Good night.